Okay, so the first item on the agenda here is Vistas Pond presentation. Andy, thank you for being here, and your team, welcome back. Are you leading the charge on, you're doing this presentation?
I am.
Okay. Omar, are we ready to go?
We're all set.
Okay. And if anyone from the public, if you're not speaking, if you could be so kind as to just mute yourself so we don't have background noise, be appreciated. Thank you. Go ahead, Andy.
All right, Mayor. So I produced a memo dated April 18th for Mayor and Council breaking down the options for Pfister's Pond hydro raking. I broke it down in basically two options. One was to publicly bid Pfister's Pond, and number two was to potentially use the county contract. They have some language about hydro raking on the county contract. Either way, looking at the borough's budget, you have $595,000 available. When you break the project down, the project is broken down in basically 7 categories. It has to have mobilization, which includes getting the contractor to the site, an access road, any permits from soil conservation and restoration of those disturbed areas after it's done. Action item 2 is actually hydro raking, going in the pond and pulling out the vegetated material. Item 3 is trucking the material in watertight trucks from the pond to the current leaf composting facility in Tenafly. Item 4 is preparation of leaf composting facility, because you can't just dump this material on site. It needs an area to kind of contain it, almost like a little bit like a swimming pool, but a much bigger area. You have to construct that area. The next item is maintaining the hydro-raked materials at the leaf compost facility, which means you take the hydro-raked materials brought from Pfister's Pond, you mix our current Tenafly leaf matter with it, you manage it for about a 6-month period, let the water weight decant out or just basically evaporate out, and then you could actually truck it off site. The next item is trucking off site to an off-site facility, and the last item is the engineering for bidding, oversight, and getting the permits. When you look at the two options, the public bidding versus the county contract, the biggest difference is in the county contract, they only allow for raking. When I say raking, they actually have a rake type device that's put off the back of a backhoe and it's dragged across the bottom, and it just rips out weeds. And they charge you a daily rate of around $12.50 a day. They just provide one operator, and they bring the material to the shore and dump it there. Your pond is not just pulling out weeds. You have years of built up vegetative matter, whether it's leaves or dying weeds that have grown, and you have 2 to 3 feet of material in there that needs to come out. You need to rake it with what we call a clamshell device, squeezes it, dumps it, brings it to shore.
Right, yeah, of course. This one you can see her boob.
Hello,
right.
Excuse me, whoever is interrupting, please put yourself on mute. We can hear everything you're talking about. If you're not speaking, please go on mute.
Right. Oh my God, sounds so
Kaden.
good.
Okay.
Hold
Go
on.
ahead, Andy.
Okay, so if I go back, so the process to use the county contract doesn't appear to be viable, because even if you were to use it, you would not be able to obtain the type of hydro raking in that pond to get 3 to 4 feet of freeboard of water. The second item is budget limits you. So when we break the project down in the 8 items or 7 items I talked about, you have to construct a road for access. We looked at 2 points. We looked at going in from Montami Country Club or going in through the Nature Center side. If we were to use Montami Country Club, who seems to be cooperative, that requires 2 things we don't need from the Nature Center side. The first thing is there's utility lines, electric utility lines for primary electric that run along our side. We'd have to disconnect that electric, take the wires down, de-energize it, and then reconstruct those wires. We anticipate that cost being about $100,000 just for the electric location. Number 2, we'd have to actually construct a road through an area where there was no road to get down to the pond, because there's 20 feet of elevation. And then we'd have to fix Montami's road when we're done, which is not in great shape. So we figure the cost to de-energize the lines, create a road, and fix Montami's road is probably about $250,000. So the Montami side is not really a good option because of cost. On the nature center side, you have somewhat of a stabilized path that runs down the hill. If the nature center has told us they spent some money on it, it's obvious they have spent some money on it. We would have to construct a better road from Hudson all the way down to Fister's Pond by grading out the nature center path to about 10 feet wide, putting new stone over it. And when we get down at the bottom of the pond, we break off to the left side, create an area about 50 by 50, removing all the trees to allow for the ability of a large machine with an 80-foot boom on it to grab the hydraulic material from the barge and load it into trucks, and trucks would have to back up and back down that road. So the mobilization we're estimating, if you're using the nature side, is about $100,000. Then we're estimating the hydro raking at about 4,500 cubic yards to be about $150,000. The trucking, which would have to be done in watertight containers, is $100,000. I will note the county has a trucking contract under county contract that does not include watertight containers, so that's not an option for us because of the hills. We have preparation space compost facility of about 20,000. That's kind of creating an area to dump the material in. Maintaining it for 6 months at that facility, we've estimated $80,000. Disposal is $100,000, and then the engineering costs for both specs, bidding, and oversight, we estimated at $45,000. That gets you to your $595. If you were to break it down and try to use the county contract, again, they don't do the right hydro raking, but even if you did that, it doesn't include mobilization. It doesn't include creating a trucking pad. It doesn't include creating an area to dispose of material. It has no watertight trucks. So we don't believe that's a good option. We have it in here, but we don't believe it's a good option. I think at this point, I will note that if you were to do the project, you'd be doing it most likely in August and September, maybe part of October. That's the optimum months for it. You could go into July a little bit, but we want to do it when the weather is not too cold and it's not the rainy season, because the rainy season in the spring, there's all kinds of breeding fish life and aquatic life, so you can't do it in the spring. We would also note, so council may or may not know, we have the Hudson Avenue DOT road project. So that's from County Road to the Nature Center. It throws a twist into it. That project's under design, under review of the DOT right now. We need to construct that project in 2021. We can construct the whole project except for the paving of the surface of the road, because we wouldn't want to run 200 some odd trucks down to the recycling center or to the leaf compost facility on a road we just paved. So we can do the curb, the drainage, all the road prep, the handicap ramps, hold off the paving until like end of October, the worst case, the first week or two of November, and the two projects could coordinate together. But that's a big component, and I bring that to you now because if you're going to go forward Fister's Pond, we need to really start preparing the bid documents in February and March, have it out to bid by the end of March, part of April, and have it ready so you can award Fister's Pond in May. And then that work can start July-ish, August, and work through September, and then the road program can come right behind it. So that is generally a very quick summary of what I've given you in a memo. I did have a discussion with the Nature Center to explain the same information to them, so they were aware of what I was going to talk about tonight.
What's the number going on the Montami side versus the Hudson Avenue side? What are the two different numbers? The totals?
Yeah, my memo doesn't include Montami. If you were to include Montami, you got to add $250,000.
Okay, and the cost of the Hudson Street side is?
It's $595 all in.
595 and 250. Okay, so 850. Okay, council members have questions? Thank you for that, Andy. Members from the council? Lauren, do you have a question?
Yes. Andy, thank you so much. Thank you for the time spent preparing this paperwork for the council. So if anyone's from the public listening, this is our central pond in our nature center. And, you know, our nature center is unique here in Bergen. It was well utilized during this pandemic. The Nature Center board is tasked with the preservation and the stewardship, and the town is tasked with preserving and keeping this land. You know, nobody on any of our sides, and we've been working on this for months and years, Andy, with our group, wants to consider any destruction to our nature center. We are looking at the best and most efficient way to do this project, to get the most out of this project. So to be able to hydro rake as much of the 3.8 acres and as deep as the 2 to 3 feet that we require to get the sediment out and restore the pond. If we spend the money building access roads and, paving other roads and establishing new electrical, taking down electrical, we are wasting our open space. The bulk of the money should go into the preservation effort of this land. I worked with Susan. I worked with Mazer on the county contract. We spoke. Susan spoke with the county. Andy spoke with the county. We've tried our best to find ways to change the cost of this project. And I have to say, it's just not possible for what we want to accomplish in the time period we want to accomplish, and for the amount of hydro raking that's required. That would make a difference. To do this project and to spend this amount of open space money, we want this to last a good 20 plus years in the future. To do this and only have a surface hydro rake just would not make sense. It also wouldn't make sense then to just throw pellets on top to try to preserve it when you're not getting out enough of the material, the organic material that's growing. So for me, and I think, for Mazer, for Andy, it does make sense to go through the nature center. That being said, I was on the call last night with the Nature Center, giving them the opportunity to hear this plan. Obviously, significant reservation for anything that we go through the Nature Center for. They just spent $25,000 on their center path. They have old significant trees that are in this area. It would disturb their educational program, their summer camps. They are concerned about the timing. They do understand, though, that if they want to push this project forward, that they're going to have to find some compromises. I would like to ask permission to the council to let our Nature Center director and anyone else from the Nature Center board have an opportunity to ask Andy questions during this meeting at this time and rather than a later time. So that's a cohesive conversation.
Just add one thing, Mary, to Lauren's stuff, which was great.
Go ahead.
The Nature Center did indicate they spent $25,000 on that path. I just want to be clear. The work they did is not for naught. We're going to build on top of it. So it's not like we're going to destroy what they did. We're just going to be building on top of it and making it even better. So the money was not wasted. I just want that to be done.
So members of the council, do you have any members of the council have questions so far? Omar, anyone's hand up?
Hold on, I do.
Dan, go ahead. I couldn't see you.
No, sorry, I just muted. Andy, so the $250,000 coming in from the road, the actual road. If this project were to go through, and in terms of maintenance, does it make sense to have that road for future maintenance projects?
So you don't need it, because when we build the new path at the Nature Center down their current path, we're going to leave that in place. We may put a finish on it that the Nature Center likes better, but there'll be a perfect road from the Nature Center or from Hudson all the way down to the pond with a good clearing area just short of the pond to the left as you come down the hill. So your maintenance will be very accessible. Very similar to what we've done on some of our other projects where we leave the access port into the pond available. Why take it out? You paid to put it in. You can just leave it there. So if you did it on the Montana side, it causes a problem because you're going to put the wires back up where they were. So if you have to go in for maintenance, you're going to take them back down every time you go back up again. So I don't think it would work for
Gotcha. So in 5 years, it gets just as bad. Let's say for some unknown reason, we can just come back and hydro rake with the other option.
Correct.
Just in terms of maintenance.
Yeah, once you spend the $100,000 for access, you're done. You never have to spend that ever again.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other council members have questions? No, Deborah Davidson, are you there? I could see you,
Yes.
but now I can hear you. How are you
Yes.
doing?
I'm doing okay. Thank you very much.
Good. You have questions for Andy or comments for the council and concerns about this you want to talk about?
I would say, I actually would like to have our board member, Andrew, speak up first. Because
Andrew McCash?
Let's have him speak
Andrew,
first.
sounds like it's you're on.
He's on.
You're muted still, Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, here I am. Hi,
Hi,
thank you.
how doing?
All right, Andy, thank you for your presentation and thank you for giving us a little bit of a heads up last night. Mayor and Council, thank you for sticking with the project and continuing your interest and support. So yeah, it's quite a challenge, and there are no easy ways of resolving this. We got the message last night. We had a couple of questions already for Andy. I think the best thing to do would be, if the council is willing, is we have a board meeting coming up next week. We need to do a little more thinking, given that our focus so far has been towards our Montami Road. Based on this presentation and all the variability, we're going to have to really figure out what this means for us and how we can accommodate it. It's going to take us a couple of days. We'll probably have some questions for Andy that are probably not worth the council's time to ask in front of the council, as far as some detailed implementation stuff. So we have our work cut out for us. We'd like to get all the details together for our board meeting on middle of next week. And I think from a timing point of view, if we get back to you guys at the next meeting, I think, Andy, you said that that's still within the timeline that you're okay with.
That works fine. If the council can make a decision at one of their February meetings to move forward, that gives us plenty of time to work on both the schedule for the Fister's Pond hydro raking and the Hudson Terrace Road project, keeping in mind that both projects will have to be staged. So on Fister's Pond, we'll probably do the road construction and prep and the leaf compost facility is one stage, the hydro raking is another, and then the transportation of material another. And in Hudson, the same thing. We'll do the curb, the drainage, and any handicap ramps and base prep first, and then stage the paving later. So both projects will have to coordinate together. And your schedule, Andrew, is fine. That would give us plenty of time.
Yeah. So just a little idea as to some of the considerations is, with hopefully the end of the pandemic coming some point in this spring, the Nature Center is going to be back in full operation, hopefully, and with full education. And this project basically takes the main path that's down the middle of the Nature Center from Hudson down to the lake. And we need to better understand the limitations of access, because all of our trails lead off from this main path. So we need to figure out, we may need new trails, we may need new access points from the road onto the trails. We'll have to work out on a timing. I mean, Deborah, you said how many people are using the property these days on a monthly basis?
It's about 300, 350 people each weekend day. So on average, you know, multiply that by 4 and then.
So we have 1,000 to 2,000 per month
Plus.
at minimum, with a good weather more. So there's a lot of people. We need to make sure that we don't want to just shut the Nature Center down for 8 weeks. So we need to work with Andy to understand some more of the next level of detail, so we can put our plans in place and make sure that we understand how to plan for it. That's all we're asking the time for.
Okay, all right, Deborah, thank you, Andrew. Deborah, do you have other questions, comments, or any members of your team?
Thank you. Yeah, I want to reiterate what Andrew said, and Andy, just really thank you for talking us through this yesterday. Obviously, we were trying to figure out how this is possible and how we could potentially make this work, because we all do see a benefit in the restoration of Fister's Pond. We all know that the biodiversity that is there right now could be even more if we're able to fix it from the years and years of human impact. So I would say that this is something that the board and the Nature Center is definitely invested in, and we're trying to figure out how this can best work within our current needs going
All right,
forward.
so it sounds like the Nature Center board, you want to have another conversation next week to get your ducks in a row and speak with Andy and Mazer to figure all the details out, and then come back to the council and we can have a full conversation about whether we're going to move forward with this or not. And I've always supported this project. My only caveat is it's not getting any cheaper. So, you know, if a decision is made to wait, it's going to just cost more money.
No,
It's not going to cost less money.
yeah, Mark,
May-
no, I think our challenge is to make it work,
Right.
and we understand that.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
And
And they're all-
and again, thank you for council for continued support.
Any other comments from the council members on this topic?
Yes,
All right. Excuse me?
yes, Mayor?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Laura.
Andy had actually something to say, so I'm going to let Andy go first, and then I'll ask my question.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think to help speed the process up, if you want, I could take the document I gave you and then turn it into the engineering proposal with some milestones and dates. So if the nature center comes back here, your next meeting, you have the ability to vote on it and move it forward right away.
Yeah,
That's okay.
I think that makes a lot of sense. This way we have a stake in the ground and something to move from. Lauren?
So I just want to also, as Andy's here on this project, explain that even with the almost $600,000 designated for this, that the entire 3.8 acres of Fister's Pond will not be covered. And I want to be clear about that. We are not going to be able to do, and I'm sorry, I'm terrible, wrong, the north corner, Andy, which is the,
Yeah,
and
so I
I'll
can,
turn it to you to explain.
yeah, so if you look at the pond now, if you walk down to the, you could see a water surface. We're going to be hydro raking that water surface and kind of formalizing the edges a little better. When you get to like the halfway point or a little further heading north towards Montami, the pond is filled in right to the top except for the channel that brings water to that northern end. Other than that, we're going to keep that intact. That would be a lot of money to hydrate, probably double or triple your cost because it would be literally surface down to 3 or 4 feet. Right now, we have somewhere from 1 to 2 feet of water, and we're going 3 feet, about 3 feet more. So it would triple your cost. So you just can't afford to do that right now.
Is there anything we can do in that north corner to cut back the growth or at least slow down?
Probably not. I mean, that's it, that you've kind of lost that northern area. Your hydro raking that you're doing is preventing the remainder of the pond from turning into that. The pond's really died up there is what's happening.
Okay, if there's no other questions, so, you know, Andrew and Deborah, let us know when you're ready and we'll, you know, communicate through Lauren and we'll schedule you up for the next available council meeting to have a full discussion.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Andy and team, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all this work.
Do you
Yeah,
want us? Do you need us to stay on?
Excuse me?
May-
You need
What
us
was
to
the
stay on
question?
today?
Susan, Jimmy, do we need Andy and Mazer for anything else?
I would love, and I could ping you, Andy. Obviously, since you helped with the master plan, I'd love to be able to. Maybe I could text you, and you could come back for the master plan later on today.
Sure. When's that on?
Probably about in about an hour, probably depending on our
That's
pace.
fine. Just give me like a 10-minute heads up. I'll leave everything on. Just shut my camera off.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can we do that now?
No, let's stick with our, let's stick with the order of things written.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Andy, Deborah, Andrew, Marie. Okay, next on the agenda to be considered, the shared services grant.
Okay, so this is a grant that we received from Mazer, Kelsey from Mazer. She sends grant opportunities to us that we may be interested in pursuing. So this is one of the opportunities. It's a shared services grant. We are in, you know, we do have contracts with, say, the Board of Education, where we are in a shared service agreement with them with the technology. So I think it may be something that the council may be interested in to pursue. So I just need the council to weigh in, and then if needed, I'll let Kelsey know to pursue the grant.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Dan.
So this is actually a perfect opportunity to rediscuss the fiber lines we share with the school. There was a
Okay.
spare fiber line we borrowed for them for the fire. We don't use it anymore, or we might. It's just to re get back on online with them. So this is actually a really good proper.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. I mean, there's lots of opportunity, that, the regular technology, the sharing of services we do with some other municipalities. What do the council members think here? Adam?
So maybe make sure I read it right. If I understood this properly, it's a $50,000 grant that you have to use to hire a shared service fellow. So it's
Right.
not any cash. It's not going to make it's sort of like a free consultant for X period of time.
So what it is
That's correct.
right. It's an incentive for us to
Hire somebody.
to be able to try and figure this out professionally. How do we share services to cut our long-term expenditures by doing things with other municipalities and political subdivisions? And it costs money to figure that out. So this gives us the opportunity to have a professional involved in helping us figure that out beyond what we're just doing now.
And as a contractor, right? Like this wouldn't be maybe to Susan. There's not hiring a full-time person because I don't want to get the $50,000 and then find out we have to pay, $150,000 for the next couple of years.
I mean, that's a very good point. So do we have that answer here, or we probably should do, we have to do more homework to figure that out? If
Mayor?
the council wants to pursue it, go ahead.
So I'm actually liaison this year for shared services.
Right.
And I just reached out to our new committee, which actually includes Mark Aronson from the Board of Ed as well. And one of the things I would like to recommend to this council is to actually pick one of our new committee members to be the fellow. Is that allowed?
Well, I guess I think the first question for the council is whether they want to do this or not. And then the second question is who would do it if we did do it. And I don't know if we have the answer to your question, Lauren, tonight. I mean, it's a good question. Makes a lot of sense. I don't know if any of us have that answer.
I would also ask if I'm allowed to be trained as liaison or someone within the borough.
So if the council wants to pursue this, because we need a lot more information, perhaps this is something our new administrator take the lead on. Jeff?
Oh, the only thing I want to say reading this, besides the comment about what it can be used for, is how many of them are available. I mean, it's 3 per county. So I don't think, look, I'm all for every grant and I'm for pursuing this, but it's going to have to be something fairly competitive. It can't just be Tenafly's going in and saying, oh, we want to enhance shared services somehow. It's going to have to be fairly attractive to get one of the 3 grants, because that there are larger municipalities in this county that will probably be more likely to get than us unless we somehow shine through. So just if we're going to do it, let's do it the right way. Otherwise, we're spinning our wheels.
So we have, go ahead. Any other council members? Vinu?
So the way I read it, I didn't see it as just for a grant for somebody to hire somebody. I saw it as, it says on the cover page, right? The purpose of this grant is to incentivize and facilitate. So it's, if you have a project or something in mind, I think they would, that would also be part of the grant, right? My understanding.
So I think Vinu, you go right to the heart of it. Is we need to figure out the details of what's going on here. That's why I'm suggesting, if the council would like to, is we hand this off to the administrator to follow up on and let us know and report back what it all means.
Sure. That works.
Does that work for everyone? Jimmy, you got that?
Yep, no problem.
Okay. All right, wonderful. Next item on the agenda is the Tenafly Welcome Committee sign request.
Can I present this?
Yeah, I assumed you're taking the lead on this one. Yep.
Okay. So the welcoming committee thought that it would be a nice thing to actually welcome people to our town. They decided that the East Clinton corner would be the most appropriate, and so they've come up with this sign that they had Rudy D design and measure and price. They had money that they had in the budget from not having any of our welcoming events in person this past 2020 year. So instead of, just having it sit there, they thought, let's put it to good use and welcome new people to Tenafly. So this is their mock-up that they made. Feel free to edit, comment, and change, but it's within their budget and they'd like permission to purchase and put this as a permanent fixture to Tenafly.
Council member comments, please. Is everyone good with this? Well, Lauren, not hearing any no's. Looks like everyone's waving their head yes.
Okay. I
All
will
right.
relay that to Roxana. Thank you so much.
Oh, good. Okay, good news. Okay, next on the agenda to be considered is the ice skating rink proposal. Adam, are you taking the lead on this one?
I think Jamie Cannon's taking a lead on this one from with support from Jamie Corsair afterwards.
Jamie Cannon, are you here? Can you hear us?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks
How's
for joining
everybody?
us.
Good.
And Jamie Corsair, thanks for being here.
Okay,
Go ahead,
guys.
Jamie.
So, did everybody get the skate rink proposal? Did everybody read it over and everything? Okay, so I'm here for questions. The work was put in, as you see in the proposal. I'm sure there are questions. Before the questions kind of start, I just want to say something about this. We're not offering a skate rink. It's kind of, I like to look at it as offering an experience to our community. If any of you have tried to do anything during this pandemic, there's time slots. You have to buy tickets for it. Everything's sold out. I didn't get to go anywhere this holiday because everything's sold out. So why not bring experiences to Tenafly? That's kind of something I just want you guys to think about for a second before looking at this proposal.
So Jamie, I remember speaking with Adam. Could you just elaborate that, in fact, this would be on one of the basketball courts, but not both, right? Because there's two. And, because my concern, of course, is that kids who need to play basketball can play basketball like when the weather cooperates.
Right. So this would be on a full court basketball. So it's a half court because we have two of them. And it's going to be a little bit smaller than regulation size court. This did come up in some of our meetings we've had, and it is a valid, good point. It is possible that we can separate the court with netting. That is definitely a possibility, so it doesn't ruin any of the fencing or, the plywood or anything that's in that area. It wouldn't be total destruction if a basketball came on in, but some sort of netting would definitely help with that situation. So we could separate the court and have one playable court during the winter season.
Can we just?
Jeff has his hand up, and then Lauren.
All right, so I'll do a few questions and come back. When you talk about the area of the skating rink being a little under the size of a basketball court, so what happens when you have tents, you have barriers, you have /crowd control station, space heaters? Does that all still fit? And also, how are people going to move across the basketball court without interfering with the games? So the total size area, not just the skating area, but when you add, and I have to assume that if we're doing multiple tables, you have 4 outdoor tables to be distanced properly given COVID, even though they're outside, chairs. What are we talking?
So most definitely, it is not the full size of the regulation court. There's plenty of space surrounding it in the out of bounds area. We could also move the bleachers to create spectator seating. And we are looking to buy about 4 tables, which will be properly spaced at 6 feet. That area we have in the skate rink would fit, we thought, approximately 20 kids safely, or 20 community members safely. And there's plenty of space. We did a Google overview aerial I sent it to the vendor and we spaced everything out. There's also barriers where they can walk. We're going to do security barriers. And there's what they call a changing station where you change your skates. So all of that will fit on a half court.
So
the area is quite large.
What percentage of the court has the skating rink by time we take out the half court room for tables, the changing of the skates, storage of skates? Obviously, you got to store them. I see you're renting them out. All the heaters, chairs, everything. How big is? I was under the impression when I looked at the diagram that the rink itself is about 75% or so of the size of the court.
Yeah, so it's 60. It's going to be 64 by 30.
And what's the court's dimension?
So our court actually is a little bit smaller than regulation. I believe it's 90. Most courts are 95. I believe our physical court is 90 by 50. So it's about 5 feet shorter than a normal court. It's not going to be as big as the inside of the court. And then you have all of the out of bounds area, which there's quite a bit of out of bounds area on our basketball courts. I put the aerial view in there. It's actually a lot more than you think.
About 4 feet or so, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so there can only be 20 people there at a time. That's 4 tables.
That's 20 people on the rink, right?
Yeah, so spectators, we would leave the bleachers for spectators. They couldn't move about the skate area just to keep it safer, but we would have a separate bleacher area for spectators. So there would be a total of 20 people in the skate area.
Right, plus spectators. So you're talking if each kid has one parent or adult has a friend. The other thing along the lines of that, first of all, looking at the way you drew up the rules, I don't know if this is what you actually meant. You said food is not prohibited, so food is allowed on the rink?
Food is not prohibited inside on the premise.
Not prohibited?
Take out the not.
You mean food is not allowed?
It's not allowed.
Okay, because you say food is not prohibited,
right,
which means it is allowed.
Right, it's not, no food, because then they have to take their mask off, eat, drink.
Okay, so you got to clean up that language in the rules and regs.
Yeah, no, that's no problem.
That's easy. Would you permit parties? Let's say I want to book for 15 friends to have a party there. So can I do that? And can they be out of towners included in this?
So I do believe down the line, we could definitely do something like that. I think for now, we should start off with Tenafly residents, let them enjoy a skate where they register for it. And then down the line, absolutely. Birthday parties, programs, skate lessons, hockey lessons. I mean, just unimaginable events. You could do sweetheart skates.
And in terms of your priorities, where would you put this compared to the skate park, which we've been talking about for a long time, across the street? Where's this fall? I mean, if you had to pick, because sometimes when we come down to budgets, life is about choices. Would you be willing to forgo that whole scenario? So
the skate park is about $300,000. This would be if we had 50,000 or 50,000 in donations. It's a little different. If you said you had 50,000, we could get donations for the skate park. It's just people tend to want to donate to certain things. And if this is something that is a donation, if we're talking capital items, the skate park, that's a huge expense. And it probably would have to be phased over a couple of years. And it's just quite a larger amount.
So are donations covering all the salaries, the DPW staff time, and inspections that are requisite for this? Is that all covered?
Susan might be able to speak to she spoke with all the legal stuff on the trust. Susan, if you want to answer that question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, the dedication by Ryder to receive donations into the borough has been approved by the Division of Community Affairs. So this could be fully covered. I spoke to our auditors. As long as you raise enough donations, it's my understanding that the skate park should cost somewhere around $37,000. That to get 2 competitive quotes. As long as it doesn't go over 44, we don't have to go out to bid. The donations, from what I understand, should come in more than that. We would be able to pay salary and wages and record them directly to the trust. Now, if, as long as there's enough funds raised, then it would be covered by the trust. Should there come a time when there isn't enough fund raised, we would probably have to put money in the trust and also in the operating budget, just as we do for the summer concert.
And this would be also the 1/2 inch thick, so it would last about 10 plus years, right? So before we need replacement.
You could also replace just tiles as well. It doesn't necessarily, depending, because on a skate rink, the outside tiles don't get as much use. The inner tiles tend to be the issue. People migrate to the middle. So I don't think you have to replace the whole thing. It would just be minor, and we would be taking registrations on Community Pass, which would cover the payroll. It would be an ongoing trust. It would kind of fund itself. I'm going to be honest. I would be surprised if it never funded itself because our programs are full to capacity. People are just looking for all kinds of stuff to do. All the new stuff we brought in the winter, everything's full, and we're just trying to find some sort of opportunities. Also for the kids that aren't like very sporty, they're kind of looking for something to do, and I think it would be great to have something for them to do in town.
And the shed that you're proposing, which is 7 by 7, which to be determined where it's going to be, that would handle the 73 pieces of plywood plus all the skate tiles plus all the fencing. That would handle it. You've checked with the company how large the storage area is?
So we actually had a meeting and we included Mike Cassidy from the DPW. He did suggest some sort of crate where we can move everything around, which I thought was really a great idea. So if there's concerts, downtown stuff, you could actually move the crate around. I thought that was an even better idea than keeping this shed stationary. Moving it around, you guys can use it for anything you want if we have an event. And they can store it at the DPW.
Yeah, just for the council, I don't want to bother Mike, but Mike Cassidy has been a big piece of this and has reviewed this with Jamie and Susan as well, and has approved and aligned to all this as well.
Well, but my question wasn't that move the shed. My question is for 73 pieces of plywood plus all the tiles, plus the fencing, plus all the other stuff, is that shed sufficient size?
I believe he said it.
Or is that just, we hope it'll fit? Because
I think he said it would be pretty tight if we added everything, the heaters and things like that, if we did that. I mean, we could go as minimal as we want, and then we can kind of grow from there. But afterwards, he suggested this crated pod that you can move around. And I said, wow, that's just a great idea because we could put this in anywhere and it will be less time on DPW to move things around. They could just pick it up and move it wherever.
So do we know what the pod would cost?
So he's getting back to us on that.
So we don't have that.
He said that's actually going to be roughly the same cost for the fact that you have to move it less. And again, the way I made it sound was I'm going to make it up, but it's like a pod that you could lift with a crane onto a flatbed. So to your question, Jeff, where does this sit? It's not going to need to sit there. You could stay at the DPW or wherever because it's sort of temporary to bring it there. But what he did say was that would be cheaper is the fact that if you could do it all in one batch, you don't need the manpower as much. So you actually, it costs a little bit more, but you cost a lot less of manpower.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you can add in some extra costs for propane.
Yes.
Night.
Yes.
Don't do very much. And the propane in those last 7 days hours maximum.
Yep.
Just so you know, so got to add that into a fairly regular cost of refilling for propane heaters.
Yep.
I think Lauren had some questions. If Jeff, if you were,
yep,
you're good. Lauren, did you have questions?
I do. Adam, Jamie, Susan, I want to say thank you. You know, our council is tasked often with paying bills and paving roads, but it's rare we get the opportunity to build community. And Jamie's first thought, this is a community experience, is a wonderful concept, and I fully support it. I think that, you know, this is something we tasked recreation to do. We said to them in September, at least myself said, think outside the box, find safe activities, find sustainable activities for our residents in this pandemic. And I think Adam and Jamie, you guys have really hit it out of the park. You've done your homework. I have a couple questions, just a couple small tweaks. First, Jamie proposed some lighting for overhead lighting in the imagery. I can tell you after working on the downtown lighting project that the overhead poles are exorbitantly expensive. And so and they're required to have certain insurance and they can't track lightning, things like that. So their costs are, you know, over $100,000 a pole, which is why we couldn't do it in our downtown streets. So my suggestion to you would be to focus on lighting maybe in and around the fencing or the, you know, the existing basketball fence, and not look to put lighting above the actual rink. I know we actually have basketball lighting there, so maybe we can utilize both. My second thing, and actually this is a question also for Jamie Corsair, who I understand is on. If the governor allows us and we go forward with the basketball season, are you prepared mid-winter to remove this ice rink and relinquish our basketball courts? And if so, what substitute places do you foresee this season?
I think Jamie Cannon actually spoke with the basketball team just recently, right?
Right. So I reached out to them to see if I could offer any additional help getting the Board of Ed to approve permits for indoor play. Because I know that there are other towns where they did open their indoors. I think they're taking a pass on this winter and they're going to play a spring season, as far as I heard from TYB. I spoke with them last week. So I just said, if you need me to do anything, push anything, they said, no, I think we're good. And they just had that fall winter season that they threw in there, which was amazing. The registration was off the charts. People loved it. It was just a great event there. I think they're going to move to a spring season, which I'm seeing as like an April 1st, late March, like you're going maybe the last week of March if we're all lucky. They're looking to kind of throw a season in there.
That's correct. I'm on the basketball board. That is correct.
Thank you, Jamie. I knew that. Jamie Corsair, I knew that. That's why I included you in the question.
Right. Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
No.
Did anyone reach out to the JCC and try to see if maybe we can utilize those courts while those courts downtown are being used by the rink? I have a feeling they'll be open-minded to that.
Well, we could, with Jamie Cannon, I don't know if you reached out to anybody else, but that's certainly something to be considered offline, or alternative locations to launch.
Yeah, most definitely. I also have we could go, not that we want to go out of town, but there are options that are available to us to go out of town.
We'll try to support the JCC and Tenafly something, before we start reaching out to other.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Yeah, there's so many free options. You want to stay outside, which is great. So, yeah.
Okay, Lauren, back to your questions. Thank you, Orly.
So I'd like to talk about the trust for a minute, and I understand it's, will be done by donations. Our goal, of course, is to not have any municipal tax money at the moment for 2021 spent on this project. If we fall short of that goal, how are we funding this? And is there any money in the recreation budget to go towards this?
So,
Jamie,
yeah,
I
Susan?
think that there's no planning right now for money to be put in the recreation budget for this. I was told that they have plenty of individuals in the community that would like to donate towards this. However, going forward, you may need to supplement depending on how many contributions come in the future. But with that being said, since this is a portable type of activity where you could pull it down, should there not be a funding source, you would just have to stop the ice skate if you didn't want to supplement with it being in the budget. But as long as we're getting donations, we wouldn't have that issue.
Yeah, let me ask Jimmy Corsair to give an update on where we are since she's been spearheading this.
So we're about halfway, a little bit more than halfway towards our goal at this point. We've got the top sponsorships already covered, the ISN sponsorship, and we have several other sponsors that have committed. I'm waiting for just a couple of places to ask their corporate divisions, and also this approval is going to be key. A lot of people are waiting until we get the final approval from the council to give me their final decision on commitment. But I have very, very, very good, strong interest, and the sponsors are really excited about it.
Yeah, so we're going to have the money, and what we did, and like, again, the goal of 50, actually get the rank is 37. We're going to have plenty of funds to pay for even the extras that Jamie has put in. And again, it's really important to remember, we're charging for this. So the ongoing cost of the staff and everything, that's more than, Jamie and I did some rough back of the envelope math, is actually more than going to make up for what the cost is going to be. So if anything, actually, I think we need to lower the cost, the fee for the skates, just to make sure that the goal is not to make money, but just to cover the staff. So financially, it's not going to be an issue.
Can I ask a follow-up? So we will not be purchasing any item here until we hit the 50,000 mark. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if we fully fund it and raise it,
yep,
then you're looking for permission from this council to go ahead and purchase and create this experience.
Yeah, we're looking for the approval tonight, and then once we hit, and again, we're going to have it, like Jamie said, the issue is people have been saying, great, is it approved? Once it's approved, come back. And we're more than halfway there already, so it will be done next week and ready to order it.
And I have
You
one
have any
more.
questions, Councilman Blunt?
Sorry, I have one more. So has Oresco Park been looked at as a possible space to socially distant any of the onboarding to the rink or any of the lines, or, changing areas rather than the basketball court?
I would have to send an aerial view to the vendor in order to look at that. There's also, I've been dealing with the Manhattan Fire Department, and we have to get it inspected. So there are a couple people, if you're looking at a different location, I would have to look in to see if it's safe in that area.
Well, my concern obviously is socially distancing in the pandemic. I do agree with Jeff that it is tight in and around where the skating would be. My fear is that inadvertent crowds would come and people would congregate. And so I don't like that during this health crisis, obviously. And I want to do everything I can to make this socially distanced and safe at all times in all stages of this.
So, I would just want to jump in on that topic. Whether it's the summer concerts, whether it's the recreation programs, senior citizen programs run out of the senior center. We've been pretty strict. Jamie Cannon has, Jeff has, Michelle House has, in terms of enforcing social distancing. And I think that we would expect nothing less than the same here, Jamie, right?
Right. My original thought was to put in the basketball court because it's the absolute perfect surface. We can also lock the gates so everything's nice and safe, and we can keep all of the participants kind of contained in the gate. Of course, it could be moved. I just figured when we're starting off, maybe we should put it, in a sure spot, and then we can move it around as we go. If people they know people, it's there. Look at that. That's amazing. What is that? So this way people know we have it, and then we can move it around afterwards. That was just my initial thought on that.
Any questions from other council members? And I can't necessarily see you, so speak up, council members. No? Okay. Look at Jamie and Jeff and Lauren and Adam for all your comments and questions. I think they're all 100% valid. I think this is a great idea. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the community. Another opportunity for kind of a little bit of an adventure. To Jamie Cannon's point about people are looking for things to do, and if it gets them out of their house safely, I think it makes a lot of sense. So thank you everyone for all the work. So the question now is, do we have consensus from the council to move forward on this fully? Knowing that all the money has to be raised privately to pay for it, as we've been discussed. Do we need to do a roll call, or is everyone good with this? Everyone good? So
it's not unanimous, Mayor.
Mayor?
Yes, Jeff?
I'm not going to stand in the way of a good idea, and I won't do that. I just do want to express, while I'm all for doing things for our residents, and this is definitely doing something, and there's been a lot of thought put into it, I also know that there are food shelters around us and other organizations that have been hurting badly. And just, I want us to think about, we are asking people to donate money for a skating rink, and some people may have enough to do both, but I've found that, like when we were trying to do summer concerts last year, we stopped because we didn't want to compete with Tenafly Cares. People were giving to that, and that was important. And there are different priorities, and we're putting this out as a priority because we're saying, here's the idea. It's not like we're presenting 10 different ideas. We're presenting one, and it's, $50,000 that buys a lot of meals. So as I say, I'm not going to stand in the way. I just want us to think of what our priorities are when we endorse these things. And so I have a hard time with that given the pandemic. I think any other time I'd be sitting there saying, where's my skates? So again, I'm not saying in the way of it, but I can't say I'm unanimous with this.
Can I make a comment to Jeff? So Jeff, I do agree with you, and I'm not saying that that's.
Orly, I hate to interrupt you, but we're in the middle of a voting.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. We just need to finish this process.
But Orly, if you want, we can chat offline about sometime. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Love to, Jeff. Thank you.
Jeff, would you be more comfortable if I poll the council?
You don't have to poll the council. I stated my position.
Okay. All right. It sounds like we have it sounds like we have a majority to move forward on this and consensus from the council. Adam and Jamie Cannon and Jamie Corsair, it's full speed ahead. And you've heard the council's concerns. Safety priority number one. Obviously, Jamie, we've got to enforce social distancing. And Adam, the money has to be in place before we pull the trigger on anything.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank all of you. Thank you all for everyone's comments on this topic and your input and your work.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
My commitment to you, Jeff. Actually, we have an update later. Tenafly Cares has kicked it up a notch. We have lasagnas. I expect you be making some. We actually just surpassed lasagnas already in the first week, over 500 meals. So I promise Tenafly Cares will always be top of mind for this town.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that. On the list is the administrative report. So who's Jimmy, Susan, who's giving this tonight based on timing?
Okay, so there is no administrative report. I would just like to introduce Jimmy Holmesy, our new administrator that started yesterday.
Jimmy, say hi to everybody. Congratulations
Thank you.
and welcome
Thank
aboard.
you. Appreciate it.
Well, you've got, I hope your first 2 days were enjoyable.
Of course, looking forward to serving the residents and the council.
Wonderful. Thanks. We're very happy to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is correspondence. The first item is from Mr. From the Koch family regarding leaf blowers that came in last December 3rd.
So I can talk on this one. This one came to me.
Sure.
Is that okay? This is from Dr. Alia Koch. Along with the conversations we had from numerous residents, this resident approached me similarly to what we heard in the fall about the constant noise of the leaf blowers. When I explained that the council had an unwillingness to change any laws, she wrote in this letter. So I think the theme of this letter, again, is enforcement here. And I know as we bring on additional people in our code enforcement and buildings, let's continue to advise them to enforce the hours of the leaf blowers. I think even in the winter, I'm hearing them. So I would like, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind including that in your mayor's message for the upcoming week.
Yeah, I'll go a step further. We have some enforcement work to do on both leaf blowers and general construction. We're getting a lot of comments from residents recently that some of the construction starting, 6 a.m., 6:30, and so we need to put a stop to that.
Follow up that I still would like the environmental committee to weigh in on the electric or not as loud leaf blowers. I still would like to hear back on that. Many other communities
that was lithium battery ones, Lauren.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
thank you, Julie.
So Julie, if you can deliver that message to the environmental commission, that would be great.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, yes, of course.
I want to remind folks, I've done it when contractors or landscapers show up before the permissible hour. They can contact, number one, the police. That is part of enforcement. And if they're not comfortable doing that, they can definitely send an email to the building department, code enforcement, and let them know the name of the contractor, and they will reach out and remind them what the proper hours are.
Agreed. Okay, the next letter is from George Acosta regarding the food truck, and he is requesting that we increase the hours of the food truck, and the council members have a comment on this. Lauren, I think your hand went up first.
Sorry, I also think somebody from this truck is on the call, so I'm not sure if they are, but I've spoken with this food truck vendor. I know we just recently passed the general licensing of the food trucks, and I think it was a great law. Here's my thought after watching it take place. I think that the food trucks now have to ask special permission for their permits. I think the permits aren't endless. I think they're set times and dates. And so if a food truck would like to come here to Tenafly, it doesn't make sense to limit them to a breakfast and lunch crowd. It does make sense maybe to limit the days or the weeks or the time period that a food truck could operate. But maybe what we do is we say you can operate for a weekend or for 3 or 4 days or 1 week time period during each meal. And most of the food trucks don't serve breakfast, they serve lunch, dinner options. And so if we're going to give them a viable opportunity to be here in our town, then find a different, more logical way to limit them than to cut off all dinner service. That's my comment.
So I would go a step further than that. I think, our foray into the food truck ordinance has been about how did we historically do it for somebody who had an ice cream truck or a street fair for a weekend, that sort of thing. And that's not really what a food truck is all about. A food truck, I'm just going to throw it out there. We should have an annual licensing program for a location, and they get inspected based on whatever the health inspection requirements are, once or twice a year or once a quarter, and they have a permanent location. They pay a license fee. to the borough for that location. And, we established the hours, to your point, Lauren, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that they're either in business or they're not in business. We've stepped halfway into this, and I think we really need to look at the food trucks as its own separate kind of licensed, rules around it. Go ahead, Lauren.
Go ahead,
Lauren,
Julie. You go.
Julie. Go ahead, Julie.
Right. So, yeah, I'm not in favor of changing this ordinance in that way as the letter recommended at this time, because I remember that, former Mayor Rustin was on, and I had concerns a couple cycles ago because the ordinance, the way it is now, it's not strong enough to prevent a food truck from being in the center of town on a private lot. Day in, day out. And I think expanding the hours alone would harm our highly taxed food establishments. Currently, for a nominal fee, we actually permit a truck. My understanding, Wendy, clear this up for me, but we permit a truck to use a lot daily for breakfast and lunch hours, and I don't see the upside for the town in expanding the hours. I am definitely on board with, revising the truck. But my concern is, especially with COVID, but really any other time, and we have highly taxed local businesses that serve food. And I do not want, them harmed because the food truck, to Mark's point, was envisioned as, what you have when you have an event. So, there needs to be a lot of cleaning up.
Adam, then Lauren.
And we can continue the conversation. I would propose, I know, first of all, thank you to Wendy and for the rest of the council to get something on the books. I do believe there's opportunities for improvement. I'm happy to take the lead in concert with the Chamber of Commerce Downtown Committee and come back to the council with, and speak to you guys and come back to the council with a recommendation for adjustments if I'm happy to help with that.
Lauren.
So, Mayor, I'm going to respectfully disagree with giving a permanent space. I think that actually is going too far in our allowances, and that does create permanent competition. I think that food trucks should be allowed to compete on a temporary basis only. I think while they, should be allowed in town, they should be not allowed to actually be an ongoing competition for our taxpaying businesses. So for me, I would find a special permission or a special, set period of time that's less permanent, and we have to figure out the licensing if that's the case. I understand that's a huge hiccup here. And Julie, to your point, from what I understand, a private business still needs to get a permit to have the food truck on it under this ordinance, and Wendy made sure of that. And so they no longer can park downtown and permanently compete. And Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, if I could just jump in and this may help some of the council members. I did the proposal that was in the correspondence that you received is not zoned for food trucks. So the way the current food truck,
and I'll put it on and we can watch it together. Are you busy?
Hello?
Hello? Jamie Cannon, you need to mute yourself.
So just to be clear, the way the current ordinance on the books was written, the allowable.
Who is that? Can we tell? Is that Jamie Cannon?
That's Jamie. Yeah, she needs
Jamie,
to.
Jamie, you're not muted. Hopefully she's muted now. Go ahead, Wendy.
Okay, I'm sorry. So just to back it up again. So the issue is that the way that the ordinance was written, as you all recall, there was concern that perhaps there's commercial businesses that bring in food trucks for breakfast, lunch for their employees, and that was how that space and time was given. That is for the commercial zone. The location where the food truck is wanting to operate is actually not in a commercial zone. So that's why the requirement keeps coming in, regardless of the hours, as the need for the special event permit. So as you all are looking at this and contemplating the next step for this ordinance, which I think everyone has already made clear that this was the starting off point, please keep that in mind of what the allowable zoning is and in the locations as well. And I would just also caution that if it is going to be a fixed location, you may want to also take that through the Environmental Commission to review the idling that may be involved.
So,
Venu's hands up there, Mayor. Venu's hand's been up for a while.
who's this? Dan's?
Venu.
Oh, Venu. Sorry, Venu. I didn't see you. Go ahead, Venu, please.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to say that I think Julie's comments are spot on. I mean, at the hello. I mean, I think that we do have a lot of work to do on the food truck, the ordinance related to it, and I don't disagree with you, Mayor, that doing it as maybe doing it as a separate. Ordinance might not be the right thing. If that might be the way to go about it. But I know that there are ordinances in a number of other towns nearby. Bergenfield has one. There's a few that I've seen on mobile vendors, and I think there's a lot we can learn from those as well. And put it into our situation.
No, look, I agree. I think my main point with, the council has to decide philosophically that they want food trucks, how often should they operate. My main takeaway that I'm hoping to accomplish is just that the food truck as a food truck business is not a special event, and the council should continue to craft the ordinance as this is a unique situation. However, the council decides, hours, zoning, whatever it might be. And I think, and to give clarity around it so that if someone comes into town with a food truck, they know where they stand and they can make a business decision about whether it makes sense for them or not. Vanu?
I'll just add that I think, the discussion on this was started with a letter from one of the owners. And maybe we need to actually have a more fleshed out conversation on all those details.
I think, and that's an offline conversation,
Sure.
Probably to include the owners, and maybe that's something our new administrator can kind of another project that he can kind of delve into, to take the lead on with the owners, with a couple of council people who are most interested in this topic, to flush out what we really think it should be, and then report back to the council for further consideration. Does that make sense for everyone?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't think it could be. I don't think Venu. Correct me if I'm wrong. You didn't say we should discuss it with the owners, right?
No,
I just
no,
remember that's how it started.
Yeah, that's how it started. I'm saying that we should probably have more flesh. Get a bigger discussion among the council. And kind of determine what we want to see for the town rather than doing it piecemeal, as we've done so far.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted, because this is a correspondence and this is a particular owner that wrote in, I wanted to see if you would allow an opportunity for him to make a comment at this time. Although I'm not.
You here, George? You here? Any of your team members?
I wasn't sure if George or Mark are on.
Mark? Anyone from the
George is here. He's having problems getting on. I see George. I don't know. I can't hear you, George.
Give George a second to.
No, George, it's not that working.
Okay. All right. So let's, Jimmy will have an offline discussion with a couple of the council members about this, and we'll come back with some more details.
I just want to make sure also that Jimmy follows up with this particular owner because they're making a particular request.
He spent in, Jimmy, you're clear on that? George Acosta sent in this correspondence?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, the next is correspondence from Brandon Moriarty regarding the off-duty employment ordinance. Does anyone know if Brandon is on?
He's on.
He is on? Okay, I can't see. So Brandon, we had a closed session conversation about this earlier this evening, and there are some more questions the council has and concerns. And we're going to have that conversation with you offline with Susan and Jimmy tomorrow and go into the details of it. I don't know if you, hopefully you hear me there.
I hear you, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll, again, we talked about during closed session, and we'll have an offline discussion tomorrow with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you
Can
for
we,
being here.
wait, Mayor, can we finalize the police day, please?
The police day, I believe, Brandon, you've ordered the flag and you're looking for this May 5th time period. I'm doing that from memory here. Is that correct?
Well, I didn't order the flag till I had a date yet. If we're good giving me a date, I will order the flag and we're good to go.
Is the council all good with that date, that time period?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to acknowledge that this past weekend was National Police Association Appreciation Day. So Brandon, please relay to the PBA our deepest heartfelt appreciation for their tireless work as our first responders.
I will. Question for the flag flying. Are we doing it for Police Week as our riders do the Unity Tour, or are we doing it for a single day?
I would advocate whichever one you would prefer.
Yeah, does council want to weigh in on that? Are you okay with a week? I think Vanu has a comment.
I mean, I personally would say that we do it on the 15th and possibly the 16th, you know, so 2 days.
Mother's Day, isn't it? Isn't that Mother's Day weekend?
It is, but that's
Is that Police Week?
Brandon, Brandon, can you clarify what dates we're talking about with the council, please?
It was the dates that were included in the email for May.
Okay.
It goes from May 10th to Saturday, May 16th. National
Okay.
Police Week.
That's correct.
So I'm fine with those dates if that's what the PBA would like.
Yes, the
Council.
15th is the main one.
Sorry,
It's the main day. Whatever week that the 15th falls on is what surrounds it.
Okay, is the council good with that week? Any further comments? Okay, Brandon, there you go.
Excellent. I'll order the flag. What time are we looking to set up a meeting for tomorrow so I know availability?
Susan, do you have a time available? Do you want to pick?
I'm good all day. I'll leave it up to Jimmy.
I don't know who I'm having a meeting with or what it's entailing, so I don't really know any of the details. You tell me
All
when
right,
I can be available, and I'll be available.
Jimmy, are you available tomorrow morning with Susan and Brandon? 10 o'clock? Jimmy?
Mayor.
Yes.
So I just wanted to circle back to the dates. You know, so I think the date was not what the PBA president had asked, but what you know, one of the councilmen had suggested. In the letter, it says, 1 second. That you know, that it's May 15th is National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls is National Police Week. So I think, you know, I think, you know, again, I say, you know, the 15th and the 16th, we as a council don't have to completely agree with the request. We have the ability to decide outside of that. So that's my personal recommendation.
We do have that ability, but there is a request for a particular day from the PBA, and I think unless we have a strong opposition why that shouldn't take place, I defer on that date to the request party.
Mayor, can you just take a poll?
Yeah, that was going to be my next comment. Let's take a poll. The question: week or 2 days? Just answer the question as a full week or 2 days. Omar, can you poll, please?
Okay, for the full week, Councilmember Dayton.
Full week.
Okay. Councilmember Grossman.
It's National Police Week, so I'll go with week.
Councilmember Menon,
2 days.
Councilmember Michaels,
A week.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Week. Thank you.
Member Park.
The whole week.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Brandon, for being here tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We still didn't solidify a time.
I think because Jimmy had lost connection. Jimmy, you're back on. Are you good tomorrow morning, Jimmy, to meet with via phone with Brandon and Susan? 10 a.m.?
Yeah, that works fine. Sorry, I did lose connection. That works.
Okay. Susan, that works for you?
Yes.
Okay, 10 a.m., Brandon. And either Jimmy or Susan will be in contact you with the call-in number.
Outstanding. Thank you very much. 10 a.m. it is. I appreciate the vote for the week. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Brandon.
Okay, 10 a.m. Wednesday. Okay. Any questions about the resolutions?
Quick one, Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman.
More comment. I know that we have contract for COVID-19 testing site, and I do want people, the public, to understand that this means that there will be a place that you can get tested in town. It'll be at the municipal parking lot. That being said, I do want people to also understand that on this company's website there, Evenpoint, that it says specifically they do not accept any insurances, Medicare or Medicaid. So there are places around here that do, they will not. That's very specific on their website. It also is interesting to note that before we even vote this resolution, that they have on their website that they've made Tenafly a testing site. But I encourage people to think about, issues of insurance coverage and what this company can and cannot offer, and that before they go running headlong to say, yay, we got something in Tenafly, let me go there for testing. You should consider your insurance, and that was all.
Just for clarification, Jeff, you know, as just we know the same. Well, I don't know as much as you, but I believe they give, from what I understand it, they give you all the documents and tools to submit it for insurance. But you're absolutely correct that you do have to. I'd say a little differently. You have to lay it out yourself, and then you hopefully get reimbursed by insurance. And absolutely call your insurance provider in advance. But the hope and expectations and what I've heard is that most insurance providers cover this.
Oh, they do. They
Absolutely.
do. Just have you ever dealt with your insurance company?
No, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought it up. So absolutely.
That could be longer than waiting for the test results.
Absolutely. I actually, just a quick follow-up to Jeff's question, because it did occur to me also. What if, and this would be like a great development, but what if we got vaccines actually in Tenafly at one point? I just wanted to know what our arrangement is with having the testing going on there. Would we be like, hey, you're now vacated? If someone could just explain the timing, what the agreement is, because obviously if one day we can get vaccines here, we'd want to use that room for that purpose. Thoughts?
Wendy, it's kind of a quasi-legal question. Can you please address for?
I had my hand up, so thank you. Yes. So the term of the original agreement, if you would like to move forward with it, expires on February 28th, and it provides the ability to extend the agreement for an additional 30 days if the public health emergency is extended by the governor. If the public health emergency fails to be a health emergency, again, as you know, the governor has to extend his executive order every 30 days. If he doesn't do that, the agreement cannot be renewed for an additional month. But in any event, you have the ability to also terminate without need for cause within a certain time period as well. I'd have to look at it specifically to give you that date. And if that date is too long, we can certainly in negotiating more the contract, ask them to reduce that time frame to, let's say, instead of, if it was 14 days, 10 days or something to that effect. But you are able to, the initial term is only until February 28th, which is the just over a month, and you are able to terminate it.
Can I ask you a legal question, Wendy?
Of course, Jeff.
What's the consideration here? Because we're not paying them, they're not paying us. It's not exclusive to Tenafly residents. They are for profit. They're using our facility. So I'm having from a contractual point of view, offer
From
acceptance
a
consideration.
contractual point of view, it would be considered similar to a concessionaire type arrangement, where when you have contracting for concessionaire, that basically it's somebody acting for the borough. The borough doesn't have anyone who has the ability and the experience and the technical licensing in order to do this service. So it's sort of a quid pro quo, but not a concessionaire, where they step in and they're able to provide a service if the council feels that that service is something that benefits the residents. They're able to provide that, and they are for profit. You are correct, but they get the benefit of being able to utilize their services, and the borough would have the benefit of having somebody provide those services.
And our property.
But it's not exclusive to the borough residents, right? The agreement says anyone.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Jeff, I also
just one more thing. I'm sorry, Councilwoman. I know that Councilman Grossman actually has set forth that you do have to pay out of pocket. The other thing to note, to let the residents know, is it's not a walk-up. You would have to pre-register online.
Right.
Okay, go ahead, Lauren.
Jeff, just to respond also to your consideration, the use of our property would be considered, you're allowing them to come onto municipal property. So I think that as well. But I had a question for Wendy. Are we allowed, well, actually, Wendy or Mayor, are we allowed to have a second testing company come in at the same time?
So we did have them remove the exclusivity provision, which they had originally wanted. We did not agree to that in the contract that I finally circulated to the council to review as a sample. I did explain to them that we do have an existing agreement with the county, where the county has come by and provided testing services, and we do have other doctors' offices and urgent care centers within a close radius that do provide this testing already. So there is no exclusivity provision in the contract.
Thank you for that. I saw that originally and I didn't see it right now, so just wanted to check.
That has been taken out.
Thank you. Good work.
Okay, any other questions about any of the other resolutions from the council members? Omar, do you see any hands raised there? I don't think so. No? Okay.
I don't have anyone, Mayor.
Pardon me?
I don't have any one answer any questions.
Okay. All right. Any questions about the minutes then, please? From council members? No? Okay, for the good of the order, downtown parking barriers, Councilman Michaels?
Yeah, it's super quick for this one. I know every couple months we look at the barriers. I did have a chance to speak to a number of our downtown businesses. There are some people that asked that we remove the barriers. I did speak to the other businesses as well, and people aren't using it as much. But my recommendation with, Christine as chamber president, her council as well, as long as in addition to the council members, just want to see if maybe this is the right time to pick them up for the next couple of months, create more parking for folks, and then when the warmer weather comes, we could hopefully, with the council's permission, start it up again next year.
You're talking about Washington and Railroad specifically?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Council members like to weigh in?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lauren. I can't see your hand. Go ahead, Lauren. Now I can see it.
Adam, I'd like to know if you spoke with Brasserie directly.
I did. I spoke to Dorit. I said not a lot of people are using it. I spoke to Gilad at Vish.
At
Not a lot of people are
Vish, yeah.
using it. I spoke to Simona at Mint. She'd love to have them removed. Yeah, I mean,
What
again,
about as you turn the corner, Tavlin and then the diner and those stores?
Eric at Tavlin would love to keep it. I haven't heard any issues. I think he has 2-3 spots. You know, I had actually looked to Mike Cassidy. You know, I don't want to have to do a double step, so either maybe we just remove the rest of them for now, and then you know, bring them all back with the council's permission once nice weather comes. But totally up to the council.
My concern obviously would be to harm a business that's teetering. If this outside seating is making a difference in a financial impact, you know, I would welcome keeping 1 or 2 locations that are really relying upon this. I looked at the calendar; it's not supposed to snow for another 20 days or something, according to my weather. My kids keep asking for snow, but is that possible to, you know, spot keep 1 or 2 restaurants? Because I didn't speak to Michael.
I see Christine. Christine, if you could speak, I'd love for you to share the chamber's point of view as well. I was just relaying all the shops and restaurants, but Christine, if you could speak, I'd love for you to share your point of view for the chamber as well.
That's always an exciting thing. Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can hear you.
Yes, we finally figured this out. Thank you. Christine Evron, 39 Leroy, Chamber of Commerce President. We have historically, from January 1st, given out outdoor seating permits to all the restaurants who have walk seating every single year, because there have always been several weeks where all of a sudden it gets very warm and people flock to the dining outside. And we've just done that every year. Forget about COVID.
This is a totally different year. I want to hear exactly what these restaurants have said in this year for right now for the months of January and February.
They want, what I have been led to believe is that they want to be able to, when that warm period comes, to take advantage of that warm period.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about very specifically, the decision is, do we lift the barriers for the next month or 2? So let's talk and focus just on those winter months.
Month 2 that are warm, 70 to 90 degrees, occur in January and February, and have every year for the last 8 years. We've had, for the last 8 years, we have had a 1 to 2 week streak of very warm weather.
Did I live through 90 degrees in January?
Last February, we had 90 degrees.
Okay, hold on, time out here. Let's not go into a whole weather discussion regarding these barriers.
No, but there, I'm just telling you, historically, we have 2 weeks at least where people have historically wanted to eat outside after being inside. Having the barriers allows the restaurants to take advantage of that.
Okay.
There is not a limit on parking now, and the one-way streets or bringing them back to two-way has done a lot for the businesses downtown. Are some businesses, Mint particularly, who is afraid that the barriers that are on the striped area of Washington, that discourages people from going into her store because it looks like there isn't parking nearby. And I do want to convey that that is her position. But historically, we have had outdoor seating that is very aggressively used during the winter of January and February.
Okay, so Adam, should this be an offline conversation?
If we could do it tomorrow morning, that's great. I want to take action, so I'm happy to catch up tomorrow morning with whoever is appropriate. But let's take a decision before lunchtime, please.
Yeah. So how about yourself, myself, and
I'm the other person on downtown barriers.
Yeah, of course, and Lauren, and
downtown barriers,
and Jimmy and Michael Cassidy, and then we'll come up with a recommendation.
Perfect. Good.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Christine.
That's the rule. If we do take it away, Mike Cassidy knows that I have to be, I need to pick something up or put something down. That's the number one rule, right?
We'll let you drive one of the articulate
Done. I'm there. That's the only rule I got.
I don't think that's going to fly with Wendy.
All right,
Okay.
downtown, let's get back focused again. Downtown master plan.
Can we get
Councilman
Andy
Wright.
back on?
Yeah, Andy's back on already. So super quick, I want to be efficient. So what I'd like to do is do this in three key pieces. First piece is just in a couple sentences, lay out for the council what we're trying to do with the downtown master plan. Second, I'm very fortunate to have Mary Beth on the line. We did this in partnership with Mary Beth and Councilman Grossman, so I want to make sure they share their points of view as well. And then we have three experts that we brought on as well. Andy Hippolyte from engineering, who obviously helped us with actually write this proposal that's in front of you in partnership with everyone else. And then very fortunate to have two residents, Daniel Zausner and David Jang, to talk about some of their experiences, members of the downtown committee, and answer any questions for the council. So super quick, in a sentence or two, everybody's aware that by statute, we have a master plan in place. I had the great fortune, thanks to Lizette before she left, the chance to read our 1978 master plan, 1984, 1992, 1999, 2005, and 2012 plans. They have a number of elements to it, things around land use, housing, circulation plan, an open space plan, which has been done twice in 2008 and 2012, a recycling plan and environmental plan that was done twice in 2002 and 2011, and a historic preservation plan that was done in 2012 and 2019. What has not been done ever is a downtown master plan. There's been lots of references to it, primarily talking about the fact that we need more parking. Mostly is the extent of this master plan. And in consultation with many folks on this call, believe strongly that there is a need for a master plan. As I mentioned, a group of experts helped put this proposal together, which is in front of you tonight. And while we're not voting on it tonight, that is done next time with, if I'm doing this right, with Susan as part of a temporary capital ordinance, which Susan could confirm we can do it in capital budget. But what I'd like to do tonight is have that discussion with this council and gain alignment such that we could take action on it with the ordinance next in 2 weeks. So with that overall, I don't want to speak too much. I'd love, Councilman Grossman, and actually, if I can, Councilman Grossman, start with Mary Beth in the planning as well. If there's anything, Mary Beth, you wanted to say before the council asks questions.
Thanks a lot, Adam. No, like I think you've covered everything pretty well. This would obviously be something you and I talked about, forming a joint committee with planning board members as well as members of the mayor and council. Because as you know, the master plan is under the purview of the planning board. But by doing this jointly, I think that we can make it more efficient moving forward. So thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Councilman
Mary Beth, I just want to say thanks for helping out with this and your input. It's really appreciated.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Councilman Grossman, before any questions, did you want to say anything as well?
Yeah, I like the idea of the downtown master plan concept. I thank you for bringing this idea to us and working with Mary Beth and others. The only thing, and you and I can work on this before too long, because I really was going through it with a fine tooth comb, and I don't want to get into all the specifics, but it goes back and forth between downtown master plan and the master plan. And I think those are two very different animals. So I want to make clear that, at least in my mind, what we've been talking about is a downtown master plan. Yes, like the open space and the historic preservation overlays that you talked about, kind of have tendrils into other areas. But I think to make sure that the language in this doesn't go back and forth, and we can work on that, kind of like having right at the beginning, a downtown revitalization plan, here and after plan, so you don't have to keep changing the language as you go through. There are some other wording things that we can talk about, but I think I don't want to take time and questions. But that is something that I don't think was clear to me as I reread this. It looked more like the master plan, which is a very different animal.
Yeah, I think you and I are at least are aligned. I look at the downtown master plan, just the exact equivalent of the open space element, the historic preservation element, the land use element, the circulation element. Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Do we have questions from council members? And I can't see everyone's hand, so
Lauren's up.
speak up. Lauren, please.
Okay. Daniel, David, Mary Beth, thank you for joining tonight. So this is something that I think would be incredibly useful for council. Many times I'm pitching concepts that are not looking at the bigger picture. I'm pitching capital projects. I'm pitching revitalization projects that are small areas of our downtown without having an idea of what would make sense to do first and the overall view of it. This to me is an essential thing for our council. We task each and every department with financials, with forecasting, with budgeting, yet we don't do it for our own projects. We allow someone like me, who's a council person, to say, let's talk about parking lot O, let's talk about the River Edge median, let's talk about lighting, in no cohesive way. And this gives us a framework to plan and to discuss and to know what comes next. It's interesting. I actually do not see this as an outpost like the open space or the historic overlay of the planning board's master plan. I thought this was a more independent plan that was for the mayor and council. I am happy to work with the planning board on this. I think that's a nice idea. I do think, though, at the end of the day, this should be with the mindset of advising us on how to do capital projects and revitalize spaces. So I would like to discuss that and see where those nuances are, probably with our engineer and how we bid this out. I thought that this master plan was going to answer to the council, this master planner. So I do see a little nuance in that. And so I do need more information on that aspect. That's my first thing. The second thing is, and I wrote to Adam on this earlier, that I would like to add 3 bullets to the RFQ, and I'd like to go through them. The first is, I do not think that this shows a priority for ADA. And so I would like to add a bullet that says increase safety, equity, access, and quality of life for all residents in the downtown and surrounding streets. And I can give the wording if you guys agree that that amendment should take place. I think one of the things that is an obstacle currently in our downtown is that our sidewalks are difficult to get up. Our storefronts do not have a lot of ADA access. And I know I've heard from some of the ADA representatives on this issue, and they are looking for more access there. The second, I'd like to have it so that it's not only looking to business and revitalizing business, but I'd like the second point to identify and develop natural open space, green space, gardens, parkland, and recreation that is centralized and close to our downtown. So if we have an open space and we put in a pocket garden in between 2 beautiful new businesses, and it lets people sit and enjoy our downtown and have a cup of coffee, that still brings people downtown. So for me, I thought that that green element was very much missing in this RFQ. I think some of the greatest areas that we've seen revitalized in New York City are green spaces, pocketed in between tall buildings, fountains, seating areas, plant, and I think that just makes it more habitable of a space, more welcoming, less industrial feeling. And I think for a community like ours, that should always be a priority. We are not, New York City here. We're still Tenafly. And the third, and Jeff, this one's for you. This is to preserve and highlight Tenafly's historical elements, features, and monuments. I know there is a historical line in here. I don't think, again, it's enough of a priority. We have the Roosevelt Monument and some historical facades 2 minutes from some of our buildings. We need areas where there's walkways to those things. So come shop in our store and then come sit in our park right next door and enjoy our history, because that also brings people, and walking tours and whatever else, so that the walking paths that we've discussed to centralize and make a cohesive sense of our downtown should also include those things. So those are the 3 points, and I'm going to throw it back out to council.
Council members, comments?
Can I, if I can just
go ahead, Jeff.
Some of those, because one of the reasons I said what I did at the beginning, and think we're on the same page, If it becomes too comprehensive, like Councilwoman, you were talking about some plan for us, and then there's the planning board, we'll end up, and this I can promise you, we'll end up in a left-hand, right-hand situation. Planning board is legislatively required by the state. It's something that we need to have. It's a requirement. And they are tasked with the master plan and updating it. And if they're doing one thing, we're doing another, that's going to be disastrous. So it is good to have the cohesion and that we're on the same page. Their goal really is to recommend. That's one. Two, if you look and make it better, there is a thing, we have amazing green spaces and parks, and that's incorporated. And so if you go too far beyond that, remember, there is an open space overlay that, as Councilman Michaels just pointed out, has been done recently. Do we really want to pay for something we just did to pay again? Because anything that we add to this, and we haven't talked about cost, and I will ask Andy Hippolyte to kind of weigh in on what he thinks, that without any work being done with this study, the cost, and then the historic features, kind of the same thing. I appreciate you adding it, and I am on HPC, and they'll probably shoot me for not fully endorsing, but we just did the historic overlay a year and a half ago, which is very comprehensive. So these things are already elements. Yes, it would be good to have someone take it and look at those things. They should be looking at the road study, the traffic study that was done years ago downtown that we paid for, and all these other studies, but we don't need to keep reinventing from scratch.
So I have to respond. Andy and I have spoken about this study numerous times, and the task that the planning board does with their master plan is not this. A master plan study for a council does not do what the planning board does, and the planning board has to look at overall. But the planning board does not task with individual projects like, for example, the River Edge median and the 2 traffic lights. That's a perfect example. A plan that I've been working on with our engineers in the county. They may say, we have an overlay for traffic, but then they cannot, they do not have the ability then to make a plan for a capital project to change that. So from what I understand, and Andy, if you're on, please jump on and correct me if I say this wrong.
I'm on.
Okay, this plan is intended for the council to budget and to finance and to prioritize its initiatives, its capital projects, its work. It's not intended to duplicate the efforts of the planning board. It's intended to incorporate the planning board's goals and the planning board's initiatives. And then, so let's say the planning board says open space is a priority, which thank you for that overlay and thank you for the historical overlay. It's now our job to say the next 5 projects are a walkway to Roosevelt Monument, a re-landscaping, a traffic study on River Edge to get traffic safely across to that monument, a park space, and how are we going to budget for these 5 projects? It's not the same as saying we need a historical overlay here. It's very different in terms of task and responsibility, and that's why it's not supposed to be the same as the master plan for the planning board. And Andy, can you jump in, please?
Yeah,
I think Wendy might have something.
Wendy, do you want to comment here?
Yeah, a master plan, and if we're calling this a master plan element, which is what it sounds like originally.
I have to stop you. That's incorrect. That's not correct. That's not what we want.
Okay,
Lauren,
Wendy, go.
I'm not answering what you want. I'm answering what the law is. So let me just get this out. If this is to be an element of the overall master plan, then it needs to go through the planning board. The planning board has the authority to adopt a master plan element, and the council would endorse what the planning board would adopt. If this is to be a budgeting priority as to what do you want to focus on first, on things that were already identified as goals in the master plan, then it should be called something different.
It's the second, and I'm going to let Andy to explain.
Yeah, let me jump in. So Wendy, I think you're on target with the second part. So this was really geared towards being a revitalization plan for downtown. What I had kind of guided Adam and his group on was the mayor and council would commission a committee, which I believe should have a planning board member or members from the planning board on it, because it needs to be consistent with the master plan. So it shouldn't be at variance with the master plan. So, you'd want to, I think at some point, once you come up with a revitalization plan, have the planning board look at it to say, yes, we reviewed it. We believe it's consistent with what we have on our plan, whether it be historic, whether it be open space, whether it be the overall master plan. And here's our comments, but it's up to the mayor and council to adopt this revitalization plan, which would then allow them to do a couple things. One is start budgeting capital monies towards improvements, whether it be sidewalks or medians or downtown treescapes and lighting, possibly do facade ordinances that go, but that would actually go back to the planning board, and would kind of give them a guidance document for that. So I think there's a lot of synergy between the planning board and the mayor and council in this plan, but this, I didn't never envisioned it as a master plan element. That was never
Correct.
what I envisioned.
And Andy, I never did either.
Changing the title would help diminish the confusion.
Yeah, I agree.
That's where I started with, is that there's some inconsistencies in the language in there of using master plan, but also what I'm now hearing are two different things, because what Councilman Michaels and I were discussing earlier, and what Councilwoman Dayton is now talking about, we're going basically from a downtown strategy to a fiscal capital planning strategy, which would include, when we talk about budgetary priorities, we're talking about fire trucks, and we're talking about sidewalks outside the downtown if necessary, and we're talking about street paving, and all of these are budgetary priorities. And if we're going in that direction, that's a wholly different animal, if I'm correct. Councilman Michaels, maybe you should weigh in, because this is your baby, and I don't know which direction we're talking about.
I just want
let Andy explain.
Yeah, add one other thing. So the word master plan, everybody's used to what Wendy was kind of talking about, which is actually a function of the planning board, and they adopt it. I think where Tenafly misses the boat in their downtown, they've never really planned for what they want to do downtown. It's more specific. So you have a master plan and master plan elements that reference your whole town and cover your downtown. You're now coming up with, in the planning world, they now call it a revitalization plan. You want to come up with a revitalization plan for your downtown that may have you look at master plan elements as part of it. It may have you adopt other things in your master plan. It may have you do capital budgeting for various improvements. It may have the council be guided towards doing ordinances for downtown for facades and heights of building. And where they need to go, whether it's planning board first or mayor and council, you're going to kind of determine that. And we'll call it this number one first guidance document. You haven't never really done that here. So the downtown kind of becomes a shotgun approach. We'll do a little here, we'll do a little there, and you never really get anywhere. And that's why most towns are using revitalization plans. It's a very, very new thing in today's society.
If I can, let me so Daniel Zausner, resident in town, has done this before. I don't know, Daniel, if you could just share your experience with, again, I appreciate it. I don't want to get messed up on what the right words are, but the plan to enhance and improve what you're trying to do.
Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be here tonight. Just by way of quick background, for the past 25 years, I've had the opportunity to be either consult or lead the charge for the design, construction, and operation of master plans, from everything from the National Tennis Center in Queens to consulted on Battery Park, cities in China, Newcastle in the UK, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Bakersfield, California. So large scale, small scale, and everything in between. When Councilman Michaels first mentioned to me a while ago about Tenafly exploring a master plan, for me, I was so happy to hear that, because so many cities are reactive to change, as opposed to this town, which has taken the position of we need to really understand. And I understand that there's been traffic studies and all these other pieces of the puzzle have happened over the years, but there's really never been a picture for you to work off of. So you've gotten a lot of great things done without the picture. Now, listen, the master plan can give us 1,000 things that can come out of it, and this town may only be able to support 10 of them. But you will have that menu to choose from for the next 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. When I drive through Englewood today and see store after store closing and what Closter has done to surrounding towns with Closter Plaza, and I see Tenafly raising their hand and saying, hey, we're not going to let that happen to us, I get excited. And I think that, this conversation is needed. The master plan is an incredibly essential ingredient for any town, city, borough, whatever it is, to develop that strategy that they can pick from each and every year and get other companies that want to open up storefronts here. As a downtown committee member, I will say that for us to be able to show them how proactive this town is being, this is brilliant.
Can I ask some questions?
Go ahead, Lauren.
Thank you so much for being here, Daniel, tonight. I'm 100% on board that we need a larger picture. As somebody who's tried to pitch and failed at pitching a couple projects because maybe they didn't fit into the budget or the timing was different with road paving, to me, this is so essential in terms of timing for forecasting and planning. So can I ask, in some of your projects, one of the big complaints that we hear, one of the reactions is that, look, you can plan all you want, but you're not going to be able to afford it. So in some of the smaller projects that you've had, how do you go about prioritizing and budgeting in something like this? Or do you just come up with the projects and then sort of kick the can down the road and budget later?
Well, it's a very essential question, Lauren. I'm glad you're asking it, because two things. Number one, you can go hire the best urban planners in the world to build cities, and they can give you this incredible thing for Tenafly that makes no sense for us, but it could look spectacular, but we can't afford it and it won't make sense. So to bring in a partner, this RFQ process allows you to kind of weed out those people who don't understand what the town needs, and to then go out and actually get bids from architectural and urban planners who understand what this town is about. And then again, we're going to get projects that could be worth $10 million, and we can get park projects that might only be worth $20,000. And we're going to jump on the $20,000 project because it makes a difference. And we could say in 10 years, maybe there's a way that we can afford the $10 million project. But it's really going to come through the RFQ that allows you to weed out those planners who don't understand what it is we're trying to accomplish.
I completely agree. That part of the reason why I wanted to amend to sort of put in a little bit more green in history is because some of that is what Tenafly is about, and it doesn't have to be the only thing. To me, the downtown businesses have to take priority here, and what that downtown looks like and the ease of getting to our shopping and community centers. But I don't want to forget that other element and lose our town in the midst of it. I mean, like you said, I think we can get people with insanely gorgeous city planning ideas, and we will never be able to afford that level. So
just one thing on that, and I want to ask David to jump in, but what you can do is not based on what our budget could afford, because of the private public partnerships, because of the other thing, the private money that comes in. So I don't know, David, I know you're on the line, and I know you were telling me about this, some of the work that you were doing at the High Line. But if you could just share with the council your point of view, that'd be great. Or maybe not. It would have sounded way more impactful, right? If just
Did we lose Daniel?
So
David, he should be on there. But yeah, again, so my point of view is, and I hate the words, and maybe we do have to figure out the exact words. I do have this bigger vision. It's a strategic element to it. It is without a doubt 110%. I couldn't do this without Mary Beth and the planning board, because without a doubt it has to be part of and sit within the land use and the historic, all these other master elements to it. So they most certainly have to be together. I don't know the legal intricacies of. I do want to make sure that we're thinking strategically. Again, I'd love to add and subtract as you see fit to the RFQ. I'd love Susan, if Susan's still on, to share with the council sort of the what happens over the next couple steps, because again, we're not deciding on the color of the grass tomorrow, but there is a cadence by which, again, I want this council, so that's for discussion tonight. We want to put it into the temporary budget, as Susan said we're allowed to do. I want the council to feel good about that. And then I believe my recommendation, and this is what Mary Beth and I spoke about I don't know if it's the mayor who will put this sort of subcommittee together that's made up of members of the planning board and experts. You know, I'll be the first to admit I'd love David and Daniel, people that have done this before for a living, donate their time, and I'm already appreciative before they've even accepted. But have the right people together, and again, we have to then send out the RFQ. So who are the people we're going to send it out to? It's going to take a month to get it back, but that's the process and of course, every step of the way, I believe, and again, the mayor has to tell me otherwise, ultimately, this subcommittee, along with the person that they hire, will make a recommendation to the council, and then ultimately it's the council that decides, I believe. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Again, we're not going to solve it all tonight, but I do want that, I was hoping to have that alignment such that we can, again, start the process.
Wait, can I throw this back to Andy before you do this? I had a question for Andy before we get to Susan. Andy, if you wouldn't mind, can you explain how another community used its master plan for like a 10 and 20 year forecasting?
So, a number of communities now are doing downtown master planning. And again, the word master plan is not the right word. It's really a revitalization plan. And what they do is they take this process, and the first part, like say part A, part A, B, and C, is to develop really the name for it and what the goals and strategies are and what the limits of it are. The second part, which is the biggest, most expensive part, is actually to come up with the strategies and what you actually want to do. And then the third part is your kind of your public input and your public meetings, because you're going to need a number of public meetings with the mayor and council, the planning board, any other agencies or people downtown that want to be involved in your business district. Could be your HPC, could be your recreation or nature center people, because everybody's going to want to have their say so about what happened, because this downtown is your focal point across the board. And then you'll develop strategies for 2, 5, and 10 year improvements that you could either, the mayor and council will bond and start investing money downtown, or potentially, other towns have used this to have assessment ordinances back towards the businesses or other communities to do improvements that benefit everybody. There's a lot you can do. You can't decide that now. And I would just warn you that fighting over the name is kind of premature, because you're looking for the professional to guide you with everything from the name of it, how it ties to your master plan, how it ties to your ordinances, and then come up with the strategies and plan for it and then present it publicly. So I think when I look at what you have there, I think Adam's group developed a great document which gives all these elements. Lauren, you want to add some stuff to it? It doesn't hurt. Those elements are fine too. Go out and find in the RFP process. What you're talking about now, you'll identify it there, and then you could either award it or not award it. But you'll never find out unless you get the. I think it's David. I think it's Daniel. The professionals that are going to seek this out are going to come and give you very good guidance on what to call it, how to frame it, how to get public hearings on it, and how to integrate with your master plan, your planning board. So my recommendation would be to go forward.
Andy, on those comments, and thank you. What is the next step to get this underway?
Put your RFQ out.
Okay. And who writes it? Who formalizes it?
We have it written, so he helped write it. So it's done, Mr. Mayor.
If I may just jump in, you would need a resolution authorizing the RFQ to go out.
There's two ordinance, yeah. So this would be part of.
Hold on. Let me ask my questions in the order. So Andy, are you saying this RFQ is ready to go with some minor edits?
Me personally, I think it's ready to go. I wouldn't focus on the name when you have your committee mayor, which I think is a mayor's appointment, and when you could jump in on that, then you could decide to determine what the name's going to be. So I think you're good to go as is. I really do. It's only an RFQ. You don't have to award anything.
So we're good to put a resolution on for the next council meeting and tighten up some edits or comments some council members had here?
Correct.
So,
can I say, I think you're going to need a funding source, though, before you put it out. You have to make sure if we're going to end up...
That's not what Andy is telling us. What Andy is telling us is we put the RFQ out. It's not costing us anything to understand the professionals, what they can present to us. Because we won't know a funding source until we have suggestions, really.
Right, you could, I mean, an RFQ of this nature could be 20 grand, it could be $500,000. And part of your interviewing process, which you're going to rely on your committee, is to determine who the best consultant is and what they're going to charge, and then you budget that money. Just an
Andy, another question. As I read this RFQ, the responses don't bind us to writing a check to anyone.
They do not.
But sorry, no, Adam, that's actually a question to Adam. Adam, didn't you and I talk about the fact, because you do have a lot of expertise in your committee, that you actually did have an idea of the cost, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking with Andy and Dave, I see David and Daniel, the numbers that they came up with was the $100,000, which is what we wanted to put in the temporary capital budget. Again, do not need to spend it. Again, do not, it could be lower. But we do want to be able to move forward. Again, Susan, if you could lay out the path here, if this team is aligned, it would go into an ordinance for the 26th. We need a second reading on the 12th, but need a 20-day estoppel period. So again, if we align tonight, we're still talking about this not going out until the beginning of March. It takes about a month to get the RFPs back. So we're really looking to get started. Again, assuming we're aligned tonight, it's still unfortunately going to be the June timeframe, May-June timeframe. But that's the $100,000 is the number that I heard from Andy, David, and Daniel. But please, three of you guys as the experts, please let me know if you think we could get it for like $5,000. I think we'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, no, I think $100,000 is a great budget number for you. But again, I think you could, if you want to get the process going in line, you recommend the money for your temporary budget and do the RFQ process at the same time. The RFQ process doesn't bind you to spend any money.
Good.
So I mean, I think it sounds like the council's kind of leaning in that direction, is that we get a resolution on for the next available meeting to move this RFQ process forward and see where it takes us. Unless I'm hearing any no's from the council, it sounds like we've got a general consensus to do that. And again, we're not committing any money whatsoever at this point. It's RFQ only. Okay. Mary Beth, go ahead.
Councilwoman Dane had a question.
Go ahead.
All right. To thank Andy, and I wanted to thank the Downtown Committee. Daniel, thank you so much for speaking up. I just want to say something else to the rest of the council. Tenafly is losing traction in terms of attracting young professionals, maintaining and keeping our existing homeowners to other communities around us, because we have for 16 years been very stale. And this truly would differentiate us going forward. We will not get major transportation to get New York City or other young professionals around us to move here. We will not be able to attract and maintain our current homeowners without a plan for our seniors and our community of ease of walk-ons. These are the kinds of things that will sustain our town for the next 50 years. And so not only would I like to say yes to this resolution tonight, but I want to ensure that it gets passed the next time. So if there's any concerns, please reach out to myself, to Andy, to the Downtown Committee, address them before the next meeting, because if there are concerns, let's talk about them. This would make a huge difference to our community.
Okay. Also, I want to say, to Jeff and Mary Beth and Adam, I think it's important, and I think it's going to help with the potential success of any of these projects when we're all working together on this, rowing in the same direction. So thanks everybody for their time and commitment, and David and Daniel. This is just great. It's great. Thank you for all the work. All right. So
if you don't mind.
Pardon me?
Well, I'm sorry. I had some technical issues, but if you don't mind, I can echo what Adam and Lauren mentioned just before. So just for sharing my previous experience a long time ago, that was almost like 16 or 17 years ago in New York City in Highline when I was in the private sector of the business. So the master plan, just to clarify our definition, whether it can be called master plan or revitalization plan, the proposal is to fully utilize our resources are there. I see it because I'm looking at from the private sector. I always see as a resources everything right there. So when we did the Highline and when I was involved, it was not just before like providing some design, some nice element of the bench or park or open space. What we did additionally was doing all the economic feasibility study. So believe it or not, starting from the West Port Street, on every intersection, every block, we check on the zoning, flow area, existing business. So we actually calculated all the benefit when we revised the zoning with the FAR, increase with the bonuses. What would be the economic benefit and what kind of benefit we're going to get as a town and the city with more revenue from the tax and the businesses as well. And that's the outcome behind all the appearance of the Highline we see right now. We think right now it's simply, okay, we actually revitalized, underutilized the old railroad at the time, but behind story is not the case. We actually calculated all the numbers and there's proven documents with the number and actually exceeded successfully to get the result and get the benefit of the town and the city. And it's becoming world attraction now, right? Like Daniel mentioned before, we don't have to plan like a $1 billion project, $100 million project there. We have to find our best optimum suitable planet there. However, I think like Adam mentioned before, I think everything starts from the RFP. And when we lay out all of the plan for next 20 to 24 months of the time, I think this is the first step. We can change all those underutilized space over there. I have been living in Tenafly for last 10 years. And I think Tenafly is almost double or triple the population compared to the cluster and the Demorest. And when I see and compare the cluster, I think Tenafly, I'm not sure whether we have done good job for the last 10 years compared to other towns, even though we are triple the size of the other towns. So I think this might be the best time we can prepare for the next 10 years. Just to reiterate.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so
Can
much.
I ask a super quick question since we have the people who have done master planning in other environments? How long is a plan good for? Because that kind of simple question has to do with my concern is if we fund a plan and then you might not have the funds to enact the plan. So how long is a plan good for? Could you humor me with that?
I may be able to help on a revitalization plan for a downtown is as good as the economy and your demographics hold it. So if the economy stays stable in your downtown for your businesses, the demographics in the town as far as age groups and uses that you use to stay the same, it could be good for 10 years or more. I would tell you that most revitalization plans, you probably should pick it up and look at it every 5 years to make sure it's still valid.
Something to that too. Julie, basically, let's say we have 7 capital projects that become our goals in this plan. It also gives us a priority of what makes sense to do first. And so just like we forecast in each department of our budget, we actually can look at the forecast and you don't have to do that plan, but it's telling you, try to get, the playgrounds done first and then do the roads outside the playgrounds and then do the walkways to the roads to the playgrounds. It has a logical sense to it so that as you are budgeting, there is an overall big picture, like Daniel Zausner said. And so you're not doing the pathways before you're doing the insides, then the roads go over the pathways, which is sort of how we're currently working. We're just spot project. This way there is a master plan and you can always change it. You can always work with the confoundings and say, well, playgrounds are on it, but this year we need a park in some other place. And instead of doing the $20,000 here, we're going to use it there. But you had it in a forecasted budget.
All right.
Hard
Let's
stop.
Yeah, let's move on from this topic. It looks like everyone's in support of it. Thanks again for everyone's work on this. And Wendy, so we'll have a resolution for the next council meeting to move this forward.
I'm sorry, Mayor, can I just clarify one thing? It's going to be
Sure.
a plan for the mayor and council and not a part of the planning board's master plan. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what that means really, and it's kind
Those
of
are
like
very different things.
we're not
Well,
talking about the.
I think
We're not
we need to
talking
wait
about
to see
the.
what comes in.
Right, we're not talking about the planning board master plan here. I think Wendy will clarify that in the resolution.
Andy, that's correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you so much for all your time on this.
Okay.
You are welcome.
So can I get a motion to adjourn the, this,
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, and we're going right into the,
Wait, you didn't do public comment. Wait, there's public comment?
There's public comment in the regular
In the
meeting.
next meeting.
yeah, the next
Oh,
meeting.
I'm
Work
sorry.
session,
You're
Lauren.
ahead of
Oh, I
yourself.
forget. All right, sorry.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read the Open Public Meetings Act statement. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Notice of this meeting via the January 8th, 2020 Sunshine Notice has been sent to the Record, Suburbanite, and Northern Valley Press and has been posted on the bulletin board and borough website. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call, please, Omar.
Councilmember Eaton,
Here.
Councilmember Grossman, Councilmember Grossman,
Did we lose Councilmember Grossman?
so, Councilmember Menon,
Having
Here.
problems unmuting. My computer froze up. I'm here.
There he is.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Here.
Councilmember Park,
Here.
Mayor Zena.
Here.
Dude, I got missed. Where's the love?
I said Councilmember Michaels.
You didn't. It's okay.
Okay.
Here, I'm here.
I apologize.
Could I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 4th recess meeting and the reorg meeting on January 4th, please?
So moved.
So
And a
moved.
second,
Second.
roll call.
Just voice vote, Mayor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just
All right, any re-
Mayor,
Yes.
just one quick point. I think the agenda, it says January 4th, and on the for the working session, it says January 3rd. So I don't know if there was a disagreement on the, I mean, it's just a disagreement of
The
the
year is wrong. The year is wrong.
year is wrong and the date is wrong. January
Okay.
3rd versus January 4th.
Okay, so we'll, we approve that as corrected for the proper day and date and year. You've got that, Omar?
Yes, I have it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The minutes have the correct information.
Excuse me?
The minutes have the correct information. It's the agenda has the typo.
Okay, thank you. Any revisions to the agenda, Wendy or Omar?
Oh, there's no revisions.
Okay, it's public comment time now. Audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body. If there's a large group, please have a spokesperson represent them. And please, if you would like to speak, please just state your name and address for the record. Hand up is Christine Evron. Go ahead, Christine.
Christine Evron, 39 Leroy Street. Not in this case, President of the Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for the looking at the downtown revitalization plan. I think that's a great step. My comment was more on the welcome sign. Historically, we've had signs welcoming people to Tenafly that were a very historic slate blue and a kind of sage green. And in recent years, they've been replaced with a blue that is a very metallic modern blue, like at Davis Johnson Park and by Borough Hall. Could we please standardize on a color? I personally prefer the historic look. And could the welcome sign be consistent with that branding? That's my question. Thank you.
Good question. I happen to be colorblind, so I can't even come close to addressing that issue. That's Jimmy, our new administrator. You can have that conversation with him offline about the colors.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? And again, I can't see everyone's hands here. Peter, go ahead. I see your hand.
Preston, 295 Woodland Street. You can hear me okay?
Yes, Peter, we can hear you.
First, a question for Jeff Grossman. Jeff, are you aware of the cost of the COVID tests? And if you are, I hope that that's in the promotion so people don't get surprised when they go there. I know I've had a series of tests, including one at the county in your parking lot. Never have I been charged. It always goes right to insurance. So this might be a culture shock for some people.
That's why I mentioned it.
They haven't given you a price yet?
It's about $200.
Well, that should be very prominently noticed before people will start signing up, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of negative kickback. Adam, the barriers. First of all, the alignment of the barriers now is perfect for the spring. I mean, it allows two-way traffic, and it does permit for a significant amount of downtown outside eating. They should be all should be removed now. I've personally spoken with the deli, the diner, K Cheese. They all want them gone. And keep in mind, with the COVID situation, people don't want to walk a block. They're reluctant to do it anyway. But under these situations, people are afraid to walk on public sidewalks. So those spaces are very, very important. The ice rink, I just hope that you keep your insurance people informed of all the things you're going to be doing there with the heaters and stuff, because it's going to be a little congested. And one spot, Lauren, that you might want to kick around in the future, obviously not now. One place that the borough owns that has a lot of space is the dog park area. Now, obviously, at some point in time, that pool has to be removed, and that would create a lot of space and a perfect location for it. So just keep that in mind. The food truck. Mark, you're absolutely correct. The town needs a philosophy on food trucks. Keep in mind which type of town has a lot of food trucks, which type of town doesn't. In all honesty, they make a great hamburger. It's a really good food truck, but the next food truck that comes in and wants to take a permit out might not be so good. I would encourage the owners of that food truck to take a place like Friendly's or Cooktique or Video Casino. We have plenty of spaces, and they would do phenomenally well in our town. And then they would no longer be unfair competition for the restaurants that Adam and Tenafly Cares has tried to keep going. You know, we try to keep restaurants going and at the same time provide unfair competition. It really doesn't make any sense. The last thing I have to talk about, I think it also makes sense to coordinate the downtown master plan with the overall master plan. Adam, it's wonderful that you're bringing people in like David and Daniel who have expertise. Keep in mind that about 10 years ago, when we had a unsuccessful foray with the BID, Business Improvement District, we did have some volunteer organizations. One I think was called the Downtown Business Alliance. It's a statewide organization that does work for free. And even if they're not going to lead you in the right direction, what they can do is provide examples throughout the state of various towns that have succeeded and have not succeeded. Combine that with Andy Hippolyte, who's an unbelievable asset because he's all over the state. I think you're doing a really good job there. A couple of things that were mentioned. One was was Closter. Well, they took 20 years to get the Closter Plaza redone It had nothing to do with elected officials. They finally got a developer to come in there and buy out the old owner. And they had, in order for him to do that, they gave him a golden parachute. It's not a cash cow for the town yet because they gave them so many tax breaks. But Closter is a good example, and I think Jeff might be aware of Maywood. I've never was in Maywood before. It's a much smaller town, but a really nice downtown. Last but not least, I've heard rumors, not at your meetings, about the theater and interest in purchasing the theater. Let's not get in the real estate business. You know, if you want to preserve the theater, declare it historic. And, you know, that way whoever takes it over can't change it. But in the meantime, you don't want to be a landlord. If private enterprise can't succeed there, it would be a cash cow for the town. I hate to see a Tenafly without a theater, but that's not our area of expertise. So I just hope that you know, whatever you do, last but not least, we have our own proposed High Line, and that's the Northern Valley Greenway. It may not be elevated, but that can do somewhat what the High Line has done to that section of New York for Tenafly. And I know Christine works very hard on it, and it's a long process, but that High Line would be a spectacular addition, not just to the downtown, but to the entire town. So thank you for your time and your efforts on our behalf.
Thank you for your comments, Peter. Appreciate it. Okay, any other callers that would like to speak? Any other residents or public? Omar, do we see anyone there?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, one last thing.
Go ahead. That's a lot of one last things, Peter. Go ahead, please.
I wanted to congratulate Council President Dayton on her math. 16 years of staleness. I wonder where she picked that number up from.
I didn't encourage that at all, so don't.
He didn't include the last year.
I didn't encourage that comment. Anyway, thank you, Peter. Okay. No other members of the public with comments, and can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Dayton,
Here. Oh, yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes, except for R20. No.
Councilmember Brennan,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Oh,
Yes.
can I amend my yes to yes, except for R21-53? That's a no.
Okay. All right. Time for committee reports. Adam, would you like to go next, please?
Nothing too much, just two quick things. One is one of our residents at the last meeting asked for a restaurant guide, thanks to Jeannie, the downtown committee, and others. And Christine, we put up a quick restaurant guide that's now on the website, so all of our residents could take a look at it. As we transition to the new website, we're going to have a more dynamic map-based one, so look out for that one. And then the only other thing I'll bring up, not necessarily a committee report, but I've been seeing around a lot of social media, thanks to the Tills, Andrew and Lindsay, and Tenafly Cares, and all of our residents. We just kicked off a new initiative, Lasagnas for Tenafly. We've already, with great partnership, Michelle Hausch is just killing it, doing an awesome job at the senior center. We're now every Wednesday getting lasagnas for our seniors and our residents in need. So we've already passed the 50 lasagna mark in our first week, giving over 400 people additional meals. So just great job, Tenafly Cares, and yeah, just huge thank you to our residents for lots of baking. That's all I got.
Okay. Vanu, please.
Yeah, sure. So the Chamber of Commerce met earlier this week, last week. There was a discussion with a couple of bankers in Tenafly regarding the upcoming, and now it's a reality, but at the time upcoming PPP program. And you know, the window for new PPP loans opened today, or I think it was actually yesterday. For these for those already with programs, it starts on Wednesday. Or people who have businesses that have already been in the program, it starts on Wednesday. For more information on the details, businesses can reach out to the Chamber of Commerce. And then the Board of Adjustment did not meet this month. There were no applications for a variance, but you know, next month, so there was an appeal from the Board of Adjustment chairman that you know, we need a secretary for the board, and I think that's coming up. That's being addressed, so I will let him know. There was a meeting of the senior center yesterday, and basically things still going through. You know, they're doing classes outside in some cases, but also they're doing they're allowing some people in. Hold on. There's noise in the background. I don't know who that is.
Whoever is not speaking, please mute right now, please. Thank you.
So they allow, they're doing classes at the McCandless room, only allowing eight people to show up in the class. But any if there's overflow, it goes into the senior center. So they're keeping distanced. Everything is great, but all the classes are on Zoom, and they'll continue to do in-person classes to allow for these for people who don't have access to technology or anything else. They're still doing the Tech Tuesday with the intern Aaron, and that's going great. All the seniors who are on it love it. If you know, seniors don't know how to get onto Tech Tuesday, they can reach out to the senior center. The senior center is sponsoring a food bank, and you know, they get up to 35 boxes every week, sorted and you know, provided by Food Brigade in Dumont. They are, so one of the new items, they're applying for 2 grants. You know, small dollar grants, but they'll hopefully hear in February about it. But yeah, otherwise, you know, they're looking forward to the next budget, where they say they will not be putting in any increases. So it is from that. That's like, that's all.
That was it. Thank you, Vanu. Dan, please.
Do you say me?
Dan, yes.
No, you haven't met yet.
Okay. Lauren?
I want to take this time to acknowledge our Tenafly Police and recognize that this past week was National Police Appreciation Day. In the coming months, we'll be recognizing our police department and raising a police flag, but I wanted to briefly address the police at the Capitol this January, and their willingness, you know, at least some of them, to stand up to the insurrection and the domestic terrorism. And I want to reiterate that here in Tenafly and at every level of our government, including our police, that our community should be a place for fairness and equality and tolerance. And I think our police do a good job trying to protect our citizens And let's hope that the New Jersey police that went down, the New Jersey guard that went down to help the Capitol, I'm glad, that many of them were there, to protect our citizens and our Congress people. I'm not saying this very eloquently, but I wanted to thank the police again. So that's my police report. As far as my committee reports, we discussed the welcoming sign. The welcoming committee would also, and this is outstanding, would like each one of us to do be part of a welcoming video. And I really have to get this going. So at some point, if you get an email from me to make a 20-second clip just saying hello to new residents, please do so. The website committee, our professionals working on the hierarchy of our website, so that's underway. The DPW committee met this week, and I know Jeff will have some stuff to say on this as well. But as we roll out our recycling program, we're excited to announce that our new recycling cans will be arriving soon. And so you're going to start seeing some marketing materials and information. And I believe the mayor is going to be including some information in his mayor's message. So look for that. The Northern Valley Greenway Committee is working on appointing 2 new committee members. We're looking to also have an advisory committee of professionals to help us negotiate and work with us. And my 2 new committees, shared services, should meet in the upcoming weeks. And I haven't been at senior services yet, but I know Vinu has covered that. And you've heard a lot from the Nature Center tonight. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. Julie, please.
Yes, so my committees haven't really met yet. Just wanted to let everybody know that just around the holidays, the first of the blogs that the Environmental Commission is producing was posted on the website. It was about the environmentally friendly Christmas tree disposal options you have. So, it included collecting the pine needles and using them for your lawn. So if you happen to have your Christmas tree still up, I would just encourage you to go to the Tenafly website. And if you click on all news, then you'll see, because it gets knocked back, as new things get posted, so you can revisit that newsletter. And we hope to share a lot more tips throughout the year.
Is that it, Julie? Okay, thank you very much.
That's it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Jeff?
I had a busy week last week, so I'll try and make this short as I can. So Stigma Free had its first meeting of the year, and look, the committee is super important because the longer we go into this COVID quasi-isolation, the more emotional issues that are coming to the forefront, including depression. One of the things that they had done was they secured $2,100 for hand information about Stigma Free on the bottle to distribute to the students in Tenafly Public Schools. The only sticking point, if anybody has suggestions, I'll forward it to them of how to actually distribute it, with most of the home students being at home and not going into the classroom. So we do need to kind of think about how to distribute. Thinking of schools and Stigma Free, there is now a Stigma Free club at the high school, and their first meeting had 30 members show up. So that's pretty impressive. And there's going to be podcasts that Stigma Free is going to be working on, trying to increase social media, wanting to know when we're going to get our website going so that they can do some spectacular stuff on the town website and that they don't need to start their own. They also last year did a lime out at a basketball game where they had green shirts and handed out green stuff, because green is color of Stigma Free. And they are trying to think about how to do a lime out event this year despite COVID. some sort of an event, if there is basketball going on, to promote it, maybe through Channel 77. Virtual Wellness Day was discussed, so a lot of awesome things that they're working on. The planning board met last week, and they're meeting just about every week, it seems, right now. The discussion was on 22 Jersey Avenue. That application actually began to be heard. 22 Jersey Avenue is, for those who are not sure where that is, if you think about where Benjamin Brothers is, La Promenade, that little side street that goes by La Promenade to Benjamin Brothers. Island has been there for years. There's a proposal to turn that into a self-storage facility that's 4 stories tall, and would need a few things to be permissible in that area. Self-storage is permissible, but they run into issues on height, number of parking spaces, how close to the street they are, and so those are things that over the next several months, I imagine, the way things have been going, the planning board will be working that application out. There are at least 2 objecting attorneys, so that's why I say it may take a little longer. Then HPC met last week. They had their reorganization meeting, and I am happy to say that Karen News was again selected as chair. She's done an amazing job. They talked about projects for the coming year. There was a letter that the mayor had gotten from Richard Schiffman, who's down on Serpentine Road, asking about the gates that are at the entrance off of Engle Street to Innis. So that's a possible project that David Wolves on that committee has actually worked on and come up with a pretty good walking tour of Tenafly centered around Elizabeth Cady Stanton and some of that stuff. So it's something that might also be used to attract people, especially if we had a good working website. We could put that up and people could pull out the walking tour. They also are getting a little concerned about Roosevelt Monument because the timetable on getting that going is getting tighter and tighter. And then there was some discussion about Cafe Angelique and some of the work that's the need for access to the attic, which Mayor, you and I need to have an offline discussion.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Then, as Council President Dayton mentioned recycling, and anyone's thunder, I'm sure the mayor is going to talk about this a lot in the upcoming weeks, but I have worked 2.5 years to make this project happen. So for those of you on the council who we need things tomorrow, this is the one that trained me. Tomorrow is 2.5 years. We are, for residents to understand, this is real fast. We are going to have the one-arm recycling trucks. They're automated. They're wonderful. What we are hoping is that this will make it easier on your backs because they're huge cans, but they're on wheels. So you don't have to lift and lug stuff to the curb anymore. You just roll it down on a nicely balanced thing. They hold a lot. They also allow us to reallocate DPW staff to other things like road maintenance, park maintenance, because we don't need 3 people on these trucks. We need 1 ultimately once they get trained. And also it will reduce the amount of wear and tear on our workers so they won't hopefully get injured as much, because jumping off these trucks repeatedly and picking up all this stuff does lead to a lot of injuries, and so it's for the health and safety of workers. So it's a win-win-win. Hopefully faster recycling picking up. The only downside for residents is we're used to putting out massive boxes and guys picking them up. You are going to have to fit the box in the container. So get out that X-Acto knife or Swiss Army knife just to put a slash through the cardboard to get it folded in and stuffed in there. But again, these are huge, so you can fit pretty good sized boxes in there. The FedEx, UPS boxes without any problem. It's just if you're getting, one of these 72-inch screens, that might not fit so easily. That is, in summary, all my reports. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Got
Jeff.
our money's worth out of Councilman Grossman this week. Wow.
Yeah,
A lot of meetings. The
residents got their money's worth out of him,
He
man.
did.
All right, moving on to Mayor's remarks. Both Lauren and Jeff spoke at length over the recycling program, so I'm not going to repeat that. I want to welcome Jimmy Homsey again as the new borough administrator. So all the residents out in Tenafly know Jimmy's joined us yesterday. Welcome aboard, Jimmy. And we're all very, very happy to have you here. So thanks for joining us. My other comment is about the COVID vaccine, where right now we all have heard about the programs, 1A, 1B, that sort of thing. We're in 1A right now. We get a lot of questions from residents about this, and it covers healthcare professionals, residents of long-term care facilities, and fire and police professionals are all able to get their vaccines now. If you're in that group, you can go get your vaccine over at the ShopRite in Englewood. Just call the pharmacy over there, and they have the vaccines. They will schedule you in. A number of members of our TVAC have gone there for their vaccine, so that's worked out well. Two other comments on the vaccine. As soon as I or any member at Borough Hall receive updated news about the vaccine, we share it immediately with the public. I don't have any information about what the vaccine news will be next week. We get it the same day it's released by the governor's office. And as soon as we have it, we'll post it on the borough website, and I'll communicate that to the public. I will say that residents can go ahead and register for the vaccine for the future, even if they're not eligible today. Go to the borough website, top of the website, the red bars at the top. There's 2 locations that talk about the vaccine. Click on one of them. It brings you to the state websites. You have to do a little searching around, but there's a spot to go ahead and register for the vaccine. Each individual family member has to register on their own. And that's all I'm going to talk about in my mayor's remarks tonight. If I can get a motion for an adjournment, and whatever, Wendy, what do I need to announce about the fact that we're resuming our closed session?
So on the closed session, we had the resolution to go into close. So I'm going to go ahead and just reread the resolution indicating which items would be still left for discussion as part of the resumption of the closed meeting. And that resolution is Resolution R21-45, which indicates that at the regular meeting of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on January 12th, 2021. Be it resolved that in compliance with NJSA 10:4-12, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly are going to close the executive session to discuss the following matters. There's a collective bargaining matter, and there is property acquisition left to discuss, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Before I ask for a motion, Omar, are you recirculating a new invite to everyone?
Yes, I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Could I get a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Here I dreamt I was a soldier, and I marched the streets of Bergen, and I